Yo, 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 good morning. Good morning, good morning. Just barely. My goodness, it's already 10:15. We're super late today. But that's okay. You know why? Because I'm my own boss. Who's gonna give me shit? Other than you, chat. But I trust that you'll take it easy on me, right? Good morning, Antifer. I feel like I missed y'all. Like, I was like, oh wow, I was like 2 hours late. I'm like, I feel like I'm out of my social club here. Yo, Irish mythology, what's up? Good morning. Top of the morning to you. I tried adding subtitles to stream. I don't know if they work though. Something I've been meaning to do for quite a while. If they work, that would be great. I wish they did. I know, it's something that like Twitch should just do. They're not working? Crap. Alright, let me try to get it working like really quick. Extensions. My extensions. It says it's on. Enable stream closed captioner as video overlay. I've done that. Visit this site. Okay. Log in with your Twitch account. Visit the dashboard. To start closed captioning for your stream, toggle closed captioning on. I have done that. When you're done streaming or want to disable, turn them off. Okay. Mayor said he couldn't get his to work. I saw them on another stream and I used the same extension. Hey, good morning, my Martin. Well, I'm sure there's a way. I've seen other people do it, so there's definitely a way. I don't know. Why? Why is it so frustrating? It would be nice if it was just a feature of Twitch, like it is of YouTube, you know? Oh, by the way, one thing I've started doing as of like yesterday is I've added this playlist, Stream VODs, to my YouTube channel. So if you ever want to catch up on YouTube, you can now look at the VODs. They screwed this. They got rid of my CBC watching the bees thing, so I might have to fix that. But you should be able to see the other stuff. Yesterday's VOD. And I tried to put timestamps as well, so that people can easily see the stories that don't become YouTube videos themselves. So maybe that'll help. And today we're planning to ride the train. I hope nobody gets motion sick on this train. Yes, but please make sure you buy your train ticket. Otherwise, you're not really on the train. Thank you. Thank you for buying a train ticket. I'm your conductor, Danny Taro. All aboard. Let's go. The price went up? Yeah. Supply and demand, you know? That's right. Inflation, yes, it's true. When will Justin Trudeau put an end to this? Channel point inflation. I also put a picture there as well. It's hard to see, but it's the train ticket from Spirited Away. Is that little image. Train ticket from Spirited Away. Let's see. It's really cute. It looks like this in real life. In real life, this is what it looks like. That's what your train ticket looks like if you wanna close up. And global inflation. Justin Trudeau, yes. Everything is his fault, without a doubt. Well, it's worth the extra money? I think so. And also, I added another... Oh, you're contributing to the cult's totem? That's not... That's part of a video game that we were playing when I was on chemo. I did add another channel points thing. Oh, wait, where is it? Oh, okay. I guess it didn't get added. I thought I did. All right. Well, I'm going to add another reward right now. That for 15,000 channel points. You can ask me to perform a song. Which is better than me freestyling because I'm not a great freestyler. Although I have my moments. But I'm a much better songwriter, in my humble opinion. So I'm adding perform a song to... Is it there? It's not there. Oh, it's new. Okay, sure, it's there. Perform a song, 15,000 channel points. That's why I was up late. Any song? No, I get to it's one of the songs that I've written. I get to choose the song. That's why I was up late, because I was like practicing music, which I have not done for a long time. I'm trying to get back into it and be my full creative self, you know? I've written, I don't know, maybe like 30 songs. I don't have all of them memorized anymore, but I really should practice. I figure it would be great to have all of my songs like in my back pocket for when stream wants to go on like a hype train or something. Just like, you know, since I'm trying to be famous, I might as well practice all of my skills here. You know, nunchuck skills, bow staff skills, freestyle skills. This another Unreal 5 demo? Yes. It's amazing. I sculpted this landscape actually in Unreal 5 engine. Yeah. I know. Elite skills, boy. That's right. If you ever do want to check out my music, you can go to my SoundCloud. If you just search Danny Taro on SoundCloud. I guess I'm also on like Spotify and other apps. I think I only have one song on Spotify, but if you search my band, which is Peanut Butter Jams, like that, you might be able to find us on Spotify. We're not currently active as a band, but we made like 9 songs, and they're just there to exist. Best band name. It's kind of like surprising like how good we got. It took us like 2 years though to make like 9 songs because we were all just amateurs. I guess I was the least amateur of my bandmates, but you know, it's what happens when you make a band with your friends. So it was more about just like hanging out. It was like therapy, really. Who needs therapy, right? When you can just start a band with your friends. Funny story about that too is that one of my friends that I started the band with ended up becoming my wife. And we hit it off after like 8 months of being bandmates. And this was all taking place in Bangkok, Thailand, of all places. You know, you find yourself across the world, not having many close connections, and suddenly you have a band, and those bandmates become some of your best friends, lifelong friends. You know, it's hard to make friends in your like late 20s, you know. John and Yoko, basically, Yoko onoed herself. Because after we got together, you know, we moved back to Canada and the band had to disband. So it was it's pretty cute, I think. We have a really cute story of how we met. Not to brag or anything, you know, nobody wants to hear about this. You met at Bandcamp, basically. And now you can listen to us on Bandcamp. I think we're on Bandcamp. Are we on Bandcamp? Oh yeah, we are. We're on Bandcamp. You can check us out. This is us. Arrival by Peanut Butter Jams. We had three albums, well, whatever, EPs. They all have 3 songs each. Launch, Transit, and Arrival. And my partner, who's an illustrator, obviously because they did the art for the channel, this was her first attempt at doing digital art. And she looks at this now and she thinks it's really bad. But, you know, it is what it is. I like this one too, where it's just like, so this is like the Emerald City from Wizard of Oz. And this is like us landing on this like strawberry planet. Because one of these songs is called Emerald City Gardens. Yo, these are rad. They are, compared to her art like in present day, this is like, I don't know, how old is this now? 2019. This is like 4 years old. Her art today is like amazing. So yeah, what's up, Higsby? Also, we're starting stream on like good time for West Coast people today. I would show more of her work, but you know, I don't want to like dox my family. But I guess if you know us, you can probably find her pretty easily. She did all these emotes, right? That is right, yeah. These were really easy for her to do. They are really cute, I know. We are lucky. And this one too. This red panda. Yeah, we are lucky. We're lucky to have a in-house illustrator. Oh, and she did this one. You know, y'all might have been there for that one. Yeah. So, also, don't forget to buy your train ticket, everyone. You might be looking at this train, but if you haven't bought your ticket with channel points, then you're just like running alongside the train, you know? There you go. There you go, Joe. Joe's on the train. Funny note on the time zone stuff, I'm now a bad stream time offender. Been doing late night art and crossword streams at 8 p.m. PST. I did see that. I did tune into, I missed it, but I checked out like your VOD or whatever, and I'm like, why? You're doing crosswords? It was like 2 in the morning, wasn't it? I don't know. It was like really late. East Coast friends, East Coast homies are pissed. Yeah, there's no way I'm going to be able to catch a late night stream on the West Coast. But yeah, it's hard. I think it's better to be a streamer on the West Coast, because then if you finish at like 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, you're streaming till like prime time on the East Coast. So one of these days I'll just have to move to the West Coast. Struggle to keep in contact with West Coast friends with the time difference. Yeah, it's hard. You watched a VOD? I mean, I watched a VOD. I'm like, oh, Higsby's doing crosswords. And I clicked it, and then I clicked away. No offense or anything, but you have VOD watchers. I was like, oh, crosswords. I just thought it was sweet you're doing crosswords, because you know that's a thing. I think it's hard to get VOD watchers, right? I don't know. I started watching VODs on or I started posting my VODs on YouTube in hopes that people might want to watch them there. What's a VOD watcher? You've reached a new old man arc, LA Times crossword before bed. True. Reevaluating doing lives of events. It seems like a lot of work. A VOD is a video on demand, Ribert. So like after the stream, people can watch the stream as a VOD, a video on demand. So a lot of people prefer to like be live because that's more fun, and I get to like interact with chat in real time. But if people want to catch up on what happened during stream, then they can watch the VOD after the fact. So theoretically, if you have people who are diehard fans enough to watch your VOD, then you're probably doing pretty good. Yeah, Joe, a lot of people have criticized you for for doing lives of events. Personally, I don't have a problem with it. But it might be good to reevaluate. Nothing bad has come of it. A lot of people have said that I don't understand what the issue is, since no harm has been demonstrated by you doing lives. But I guess if you were to have evidence of somebody assaulting the police, it could be used against that person, even if they were justified in doing so. I don't know. That is, I think, part of the criticism that people have, is that it could be something that's used against activists. Sometimes you watch my VODs. Appreciated, Ribbert. I do appreciate that. I was, one of my favorite Studio Ghibli movies is Porco Rosso. Has anyone seen that? Yeah, I know, Joe. Yeah, that's what I always tell them. I'm like, well, the cops are filming, the fascists are filming, the other the other fascists are filming. Maybe it's good if we have our own person taking an account of the event. Personally, I think it's why wouldn't we? Yes, that's right. The journalists are filming, the citizen journalists. And also the news, global news is there filming or whatever. So everyone's filming, and then we have one person on our side of the battle filming. And everyone's like, why are you filming? Why are you filming, Joe? It's okay, well, but everyone but it's kind of a team sport, just stand by your people is where I kind of stand on this. If Joe is going to be a comrade, then let's support Joe instead of criticizing him for doing work that everyone is actually also doing against us. Why don't we have that? Why don't we just support that one person who's doing it for us? It's kind of silly to me. Footage of Gigi being pushed into the street by camera goof. That was a lucky catch. Yeah, exactly. That was good, right? And sometimes it's good just to have the immediacy of live streaming events, because people are able to watch and, not let the narrative get hijacked, and then have to set the record straight. Yeah, I think it's good to reevaluate. It's always good to reevaluate, because that's shows growth, 100, 100, 100, have our own record of events. Sounds like Joe just happens to be the very favorite food of the left. Kind of, yeah. It's so frustrating. It was like when I debated Karima as well. People are like, how dare you talk to somebody? How dare you talk to someone you disagree with? And it's like, well, since you agree with me, why don't you just like support me instead of criticizing me? Like I don't understand. If I'm trying to represent your arguments that you're too scared to represent because you don't like talking to people, why don't you just support me instead of saying I'm just as bad as like the person I'm trying to like push my ideas against? You know, I don't know. It's really weird. It's like people are going to act in certain ways, you know? If you don't like to debate people, then don't debate people. But that doesn't mean you get to tell everyone else that they don't get to debate. That, like, you know, it's just the way it is. People are going to show up to events and film. If you don't like to do that, then don't do that. But just because certain people want to do that doesn't mean that they're not allies. It's silly. It's very silly. Okay. What's going on? My counter is James D. Fiore's selection of guests. I'm putting together a mobile stream setup so I can stream my bike rides and can rub the awesome bike-friendly infrastructure of Kelowna into everyone's face. See, that's impressive. I feel like I have no desire to be streaming out in the real world. Like when I'm out in the real world, I want to just be out there and not think about chat. No offense. I'm definitely just like a basement streamer though. That's my steez. Christine Anderson and Maxime Bernier, were they on James D. Fiore's show? Going to end up live streaming yourself getting hit by another car while biking, and that will go on live stream fails, and then you'll blow up, son. Live from the hospital. Really? Okay, Maxime Bernier, I can kind of understand. Well, like I would understand both if you push back against them. But I'm guessing like James D. Fiore, because he's not the brightest bulb in the box, probably was like, I'm curious about your Nazi ideology. Can you tell us more? Isn't it weird that insane leftists are coming at you because you have a Nazi ideology? Isn't it rude of them to say that you shouldn't call for genocide? Yeah, no surprise there. I would talk to Maxime Bernier or Christine Anderson. They want to come on the show, I'll talk to them. But I'll push back against everything they stand for, not be like, curious. A lot of people have criticized you for Sig Heiling publicly. But isn't that just freedom of speech? Wow, look at the reflection of this train conductor. I mean, I don't think Christine Anderson or Maxime Bernier has Sig Heiled publicly, but you get what I'm getting at here. Just silly boy. Yeah, they know what parts to keep quiet. At least they're like smart enough for that, I guess. It's weird because Maxime Bernier is French, right? You think being French you wouldn't be so closely aligned with Nazis. Isn't there a history there? Right, there's a racism problem in Quebec. Right. That is true. A lot of people are saying that. Yeah. All right, we got like 15 minutes before the podcast starts. I'm not sure if that's enough time to talk about anything. The premier is in denial. I think he knows what he's doing, sadly. Let's see. Doug Ford to Toronto residents. Don't vote for mayoral candidates who want to defund police. Speaking of premiers who know what they're doing, and as Colin DeMello points out, are we going to talk about the art funding shutout on Monday night with Sebastian? Yes. There's time for a crossword. You are right, Ribert. As Colin DeMello here points out, the premier just last week said that he wasn't going to get involved in the Toronto mayoral race. However, he has on 2 occasions told voters who he believes they should vote for. That sounds almost like the opposite of what he said he would do. Premier Doug Ford wades into the Toronto mayoral by-election, saying if any candidates say they want to cut funding for police or defund the police, don't vote for them. I guess he prefers the conservative candidate, who is the former chief of police. You go figure. Who also has a history of working for Doug Ford. All right, let's see. Let's run this through here. Get back on the train. Oh, it's starting to rain on the train. Doug Ford. Yeah, okay. So, if you're unaware of what's kind of being hinted at here, it is, I believe, specifically a call to not vote for Olivia Chow. Olivia Chow is, of course, a more progressive candidate, affiliated with the NDP. They used to sit on the Toronto Police Board, but they were kicked out under kind of suspicious circumstances. Premier Doug Ford is urging Torontonians not to vote for any mayoral candidate who supports defunding the police. And yes, just yesterday too, we covered a story of Doug Ford defunding healthcare, which is where he would prefer to defund his government. While Ford did not mention anyone by name, it appeared to be a veiled shot at councillors Josh Matlow and Brad Bradford. Oh, really? I thought it was for Olivia Chow. I mean, I don't think Josh Matlow and Brad Bradford have a shot at winning, so there is no real threat of them. That's why I thought it was at Olivia Chow. Yeah, Olivia Chow is Jack Layton's widow. That is true. And a tacit endorsement of former Toronto Police Chief Mark Sanders. There's a couple of candidates that are running. They're sitting councillors that voted to defund the police, the premier told reporters Tuesday at Pearson International Airport. Okay, so this is not subtle at all. The people that voted for defund the police, don't vote for them. Simple as that, he said. Okay, so stupid. We can't have anarchy in our city. Yes, we can. We already do. People have been scared to get on our subway. Go walk down the street. If there's more than 1 or 2 candidates who support our police, vote for them. Who could that be? Who could it be that he's talking about? Could it be the former chief of police who's running for mayor? Ford's intervention in the June 26 Toronto mayoral by-election came after the... Okay, yeah, we know. Oh, wait. This is after the... Oh, yeah, there was another murder on a bus. Thing is, the thing about defunding the police is that it gets framed in a negative light, partly because the phrase itself is negative, defund, right? But when people are calling to defund the police, what they're actually calling for is for the funding of social services, funding for the things that will actually alleviate poverty. We know that police do not alleviate poverty. They don't solve crimes. They don't prevent crimes. So when you're saying defund the police, you're saying let's get to the root of these systemic issues and make sure poverty is solved once and for all, instead of just throwing band-aid solutions like guns and batons and power tripping white dudes who 40% of which like have a history of like domestic abuse. Let's stop funding them. It's heartbreaking, and I will be calling the mother and father. Our prayers and thoughts go out to them. Is he calling the mother and father like Mother Mary and Father Joseph? We're putting $3.8 billion into mental health, unprecedented amounts of money, and my heart breaks for them. That's their child. I will be making a call to their family this afternoon. Okay, but we're going to need more than thoughts and prayers, is my point here. It's really sad, obviously, that a teenager was killed in a senseless act of violence. But police are not going to solve problems like this. Where were the police to prevent this crime? They're nowhere, because they threw a band-aid solution, which was to put more police on Toronto Transit, and the money ran out within like a month. It was just a show. It was just like pretending they're going to do something about the issue. And they ran out of money almost immediately, because police are the most expensive and useless solution to our systemic problems. Matlow moved a motion to cut a minimum of 10% from the 2021 Toronto police budget in June 2020, when Sanders was still police chief, but it did not pass. That's the other thing. There's been no actual movement on the defund the police movement. There's been no progress. Even if we were to get a progressive councillor who believed in defunding the police as the mayor of Toronto, nothing would change. You'd still have to fund the police. You still have to give them more money every year, because it's by design. Our system is so flawed that the police, no matter what they ask for, they get it. I'm not seeing any names. I don't even know what number we're up to here. What are we up to? 40 some odd people running? Who's saying this? Is this Doug Ford? Everyone and their cousin, their brother, their uncle is in there and are running to be the mayor of Toronto, said Ford. Bro, your brother was literally the mayor. You also ran for mayor, Doug Ford. What are you talking about? The only family dynasty that is part of Ontario politics right now. Well, actually, that's not true, because Jack Layton is RIP, is the Olivia Chow is the widow of Jack Layton. So you know, I guess we're rooting for the Laytons here. Before we begin in about 5 minutes, I have to very quickly go to the washroom. But we can continue riding that train all the way to Peterborough. Okay. There was a better time when the train came to Peterborough. Doot doot. Yep. Joe, you're the hype train conductor. So don't lead these people astray. Yo, yo. My homie leave and the whole thing comes to a literal standstill. That is true. That is how the train works. When the conductor leaves, you know, it ends. I was watching. I can still watch stream. Hey, look at that guy. He's got a hat. All right, let's get let's get Sebastian on the show here. We're late. Also, hello, Zenjoy Jackie. Great to see you. As always. I do watch on my phone. When I am away from my desk here. Let us see. Here for the Danny and Sebastian show. Hey, Zenjoy, thank you so much for joining us. It's about to start any moment now. We need to stop the train. You know, we're gonna have a quick pit stop here. So forget about this train for a moment. We got lots of stuff that we need to talk about. PtboPoliPod podcast is starting soon. Let's see. Hello.
Hello, how are you today?
Good.
Good.
What's up?
Oh, not much. Just a quiet, relaxing morning, you know?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
For a change. Yeah, I didn't wake up at my regular time. And so we started stream a little late because we wanted to, of course, talk to you.
Oh, well, that's great. So we're just
That
starting
is
off now
great.
then, eh? That's good.
Yeah, just like about 45 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So just to get people all, rallied up and ready to go.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's
So,
important.
how are you doing? Should we just check in here for a moment?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Things
Yeah,
are ticking
wonderful.
along. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. How are you?
Good, I'm just trying to balance out this here so I look like I'm on the same level as you. My head looks like gigantic compared to yours right now on stream.
Oh, really, eh?
I
That's
might
saying
be a
something because
little.
I have a big head.
Do you?
Yeah. I think in
Damn. It's
comparison
well, okay. This
to the
has
rest of my
nothing to
body,
do
not
with. Yeah,
this
we
is
do
not
have the
politics.
magic of television though, so there's no reason for it to to need to look this way. Let's see. I can fix myself. I can make myself. Oh God, what am I doing?
The
Come
magic
on.
of
There we
television.
go. Yes, that's right. Um,
I like it. It's good.
okay, I think I'm getting closer to like the size that you are. Okay, there we go. There we go. It's because I always change things around and then everything gets messed up. Problem when like you're like a perfectionist is that nothing is ever perfect.
Exactly. And you're
because
always going to notice
because
that one thing. Yeah.
yeah,
You're
because
always
you're
going to notice it.
constantly changing it. And oh, somebody is saying Sebastian has a large marvelous brain equals big head. True. That is true. That is
Thanks,
true.
thanks to whoever's saying that. That's very kind. It's not
it was
wasted space, I guess.
it was Jackie.
Oh, thanks,
Or
Jackie.
yeah, thanks Jackie.
Yeah,
Um
that's
Let me
kind.
make sure too that I have our intro music here properly queued up. Um, I really need to maybe put this in a better format. Because I'm really scared I'm gonna click it and it's gonna be really loud. Ah, oh my goodness. Yeah, I don't know why. I guess Garbage Face put these beats at like max volume.
Oh, yeah.
Um, yeah,
No
which
normalization at all. He just cranked it, eh?
just cranking it. Yeah.
Oh, man.
So everything is well, then we can start the show. I do like to just, check in with folks
Yeah,
before
it's a
we
good
get
way.
into anything heavy. You're
Good
you're
way to start.
you're ready to go with what we have here on the docket?
Yes. Yes, I've taken a look at the docket.
Yes. Yes. Did a little bit of last minute cramming as we probably always usually do.
We always seem to be doing that. Yeah.
We do be doing that. It is true. All right, here. You got water? Take a sip of water too. If you want, no pressure.
Cheers.
Cheerio. Okay. Let us start the show. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing, Sebastian?
I'm doing well, Danny. How are you today?
Wonderful. Listeners, you are once again tuning into the Peterborough Politics podcast. This is episode 6, and I believe we're going to focus a lot today on arts and culture here in Peterborough, Ontario, aka Ngojwanong. We would like to thank Garbage Face, the Garbage Face, for that wonderful introduction music. And we are your hosts. My name is Danny Taro, aka my homie Tutaro on social media. And I'm joined, as I always am, with the editor of the Arthur. I guess, are you officially the editor now?
I'm the only editor we have. Yeah. So
Okay.
the editor.
The editor of the Arthur, Sebastian Johnston Lindsay.
Yeah. Good
So
to be here.
last week, thanks for being here, Sebastian. Last week, we covered a bit of a story about oil in Little Lake or Jackson's Creek. But we have found out, last week we said that it was potentially related to the transit depot, the bus depot. However, they are clarifying that the source is still unknown. So we might not actually know for sure. Last week we were joking that if we lit a match and threw it onto the fuel, then we would get to the source of it and maybe the bus depot would blow up. But I guess they're still trying to figure it out. So I don't know. I guess it's good because in some ways, because the leak or the contamination seems to have stopped and it has been cleaned up. So that is really nice. We also have just an update on another story that we've covered in recent weeks, which is Bill 5, the anti-harassment bill, which is something that was motioned by, I believe, Alex Bierk.
Yep.
So assuming that you were in City Council this past Monday, can you update us on that?
Yeah. So in regards to Bill 5, it passed on consent. The idea there being that at the beginning of the meeting, they ask if there's any discussion on any of the motions that have been, given preliminary approval during the general committee, and that was one that had passed, and it passed again. There's there were some delegations that spoke to the significance of it. Specifically Rebecca Shillamet from the Peterborough Kawarthas. Oh, sorry, my God, I'm reading that wrong. Kareth Paul, the Women of Ontario who say no, came forward and said, talked to the significance of this and spoke to, I believe she mentioned up to 40 municipalities that either have officially or unofficially voiced their support for the legislation, and sort of gave an overview of the significance and history behind it. So this just means now that council has decided that they're going to move forward with sending letters to the provincial government representatives of it. So Dave Smith, our MPP, Doug Ford, and Minister Clark. I'm forgetting what his exact portfolio is, but I'm fairly certain that he's the one who will be receiving it in Ontario, the Ontario
Okay.
government. Yeah.
And that anti-harassment bill, it is essentially something where politicians cannot harass their staff, and if they do, they will be removed from office, essentially.
Yeah. So currently, as it stands, strangely, municipal elected leaders are like the only employees in Ontario who cannot be like removed or fired from their position for credible accusations of harassment. They can only be
Yeah.
given unpaid leave, but they can't actually be removed from their seat on a council. So this is more or less just provincial legislation ensuring that if there are credible allegations of harassment after investigations are carried out, then the politician can be removed from their seat.
That is great. It seems so obvious, but I can
Yeah,
imagine a scenario where maybe someone is abusing their power and they refuse to step away, right? It seems like someone who's abusing their power might be the type to not give into public pressure. So now they're basically forced to give into that public pressure if they're guilty. And I do like that. We're also today we are going to talk about unfortunately a 3-year-old girl who is hit by a car and killed in the West End. The theater on King and the Artisans Center of Peterborough, they did an appeal to City Council, and they were not given their funding that they were asking for. Jeff Leal was on vacation, which is a scandal in and of itself, as we all might know. It's very bad when people take time away from their responsibilities in order to focus on their health or mental health and or family, and that should not be allowed. Sandra Clancy, the chief administrative officer, is saying goodbye. They are departing. They've done a job, which is that, and they are now leaving it.
yes,
And lastly, Michelle Ferreri is saying that the federal budget is another attack on everyday
attack on
Canadians.
everyday Canadians. Yeah,
Um, which, if you don't know, that includes you and me and everybody listening. Oh, wait, there is one more story. Some Derecho funding for the recovery project. So before we get into any of that, I also just want to say that there is, as of this morning, a missing persons report. They're looking for Daniel, who is a 5'9" Asian male who is approximately 110 pounds, has straight black hair, and wears glasses. They were last seen wearing an olive green fleece jacket with a yellow zipper, black jogger pants, and a black ski jacket over the top. The people, Daniel's family, are of course concerned about their health and well-being. So if you know anything about them, please get in touch with authorities and specifically the OPP Communication Center. I guess that description, Daniel, an Asian 5'9" male, it almost just fits me perfectly as well, but I guarantee you it's not me. Even though I wear glasses, I'm more than 110 pounds. And I really hope that they do find this person and that they are okay and in good health.
yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
So our first topic is a very sad topic. A 3-year-old girl was hit by a car and killed in the West End in Monaghan Ward. It's super sad. It's something that didn't need to happen, and unfortunately, this is the type of thing that has sparked a broader conversation about urban design and infrastructure. This 3-year-old girl was playing in her own driveway, and there was a car, I guess, who was driving out of control that came up onto the sidewalk and collided with this girl who was playing out on her own front yard with some of her siblings. and sadly the accident was fatal. So it's super sad story. There is a GoFundMe for the family if you're interested in supporting. And we have also learned that the city is going to review the Woodglade Boulevard safety measures, I guess, around this specific intersection where the accident occurred. On Monday night, a city council meeting, councilors voted unanimously to have city staff look at the intersection and come up with ways to make it safer. So yeah, again, I mean, there's really not much we can say other than our condolences to the family. I think as somebody who drives in Peterborough, I think traffic honestly is kind of at a point where it's a bit out of control. People drive really fast on what are essentially residential streets.
Yeah.
And if you just even look at people driving down George and Water, the two main streets in Peterborough, people are driving like way too fast.
Yeah, this was a pretty emotional. This came in the any other business section, and Councillor Matt Crowley, who was a guest on the podcast previous to this, spoke to this, and it's been a constant sort of conversation at council as well about how to sort of address what is seemingly increases in speeding incidents or accidents that occur due to speeding, especially in significantly in residential areas. So yeah, it's kind of it's sad that it takes this sort of tragedy to sort of bring forward action in from I'm not to say that they haven't been they have been discussing these sorts of issues and thinking of ways. One of the things that Councillor Riel talked about was perhaps installing like speed cameras. So more or less saying, people aren't going to change their habits unless they're being hit in the pocketbook. If people see cop cars and they slow down, but until they actually get it and it's almost like a surprise in the mail, he's sort of suggesting that might be a route to go down. It's not the first time that he's raised this. When Stuart Betts, the chief of police, came to talk about the police budget, this was also a topic of conversation. So council's very aware of this, but when something this tragic happens, it kind of adds a level of poignancy and immediacy to the discourse. So yeah, honestly, it's a tragedy.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess shockingly, I'm gonna have to disagree with Councillor Riel on this one. I don't think this is a problem that you're going to police people out of. And what I believe in, just as someone who has a certain interest in a certain type of YouTube video, is that like better urban design, and is actually the way to encourage people to drive better. People aren't really going to react to like speed traps or photo radar, because driving is something that really is like almost mechanical training that like we all kind of can go on like autopilot when we're driving, and thinking about some invisible camera that's shooting radar at you isn't really a way to slow you down. And what I believe in is just like better urban design. There's so many places in Peterborough where you can't even see the lines on the road. You can, and what is really going to help out these places is, for one thing, getting cars off the street, encouraging people to use public transit.
Yep.
And what I really love is just putting up bike lanes, especially when they're protected, because if you're at risk of hitting a giant metal pole, you're going to slow down. Or let's say, or even if you want to put a row of trees through the middle of the road, that is to me like great urban design, because you might not slow down for an invisible radar camera, but you're going to slow down when there's a whole row of trees in the middle of the road. And it's just something that is just like, it's a reflex, really. You're like, hey, I don't want to hit those trees or that pole. So I'm going to slow down. It just is just like, it's the way that we act as humans. And I really wish that Peterborough would like look into this design, because there's people just driving like wild all over the city.
Yeah, well, and I'm looking at the street in question here on Google Maps, and it is just like it's a rather wide two-lane residential road with a center part down the middle, right? Like one line. But like yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's funny to me like they always seem to talk about the issues, but their ideas of how to solve the issues are never actually addressing the root cause
Hmm.
of any of these sorts of things. And like so, I mean, I hate the idea of like of speed cameras, right? I think that it would be much better to encourage people to take the bus, to get less cars on the streets, and to just allow ease of transportation throughout our city, which isn't dependent upon motor vehicles. I think that would be the best thing to do. However, if people are not going to be willing to do that, then you know like you said, making sure that the streets are actually literally forcing people to slow down, right? I love the idea of just having trees in the middle. The
Yeah.
car accident I ever got in my life, I had a sneezing fit and I drove right off the road into a tree. So
Okay. So you
yeah,
know firsthand
I
how a
know
tree can stop
firsthand
you from
how a tree stops people from driving at all, actually.
Okay,
Because the
yeah.
car didn't I did not drive away from that accident. Um,
Yes.
but
And you didn't drive onto the sidewalk either though.
I didn't. No, I did not drive
Right.
onto the sidewalk or the person's driveway. I drove in straight into the tree, and the tree stopped me very effectively.
Yeah.
And it wasn't
Yes.
a very big tree, but the tree's still there.
Yeah, and so much I just want to look at like, hey, what is human nature? Why do people drive the way they do? And
Mhm.
how can we have better urban design in order to control their behavior and get them to act the way they want to act. As someone
Yeah.
who is the website designer of Arthur newspaper, that's how I tend to think. Is like, okay, when people go to the website, how do I want them to act, and how do I design this in a way that gets to them, get that yields those results, right? It's UX and UI. I want that for our streets and for our city as well. It's like, hey, we want to encourage X behavior. How do we encourage it? Unfortunately, I feel like politicians in Canada and in Ontario and in Peterborough, they have one thing in their playbook, and it's like, how can we use the police to force people to act the way that we want?
Yeah.
And it's like,
Overwhelmingly.
yeah, and it's like, okay, well, maybe if they get a bill in the mail
Yeah.
2 weeks after they've driven through an intersection, maybe that will get them to slow down. But it's like, it's really not. It's just going to be like, I'm like, I'll just think in my head, like, I don't even remember driving that way or whatever. And are you sure? It's just going to piss me off,
Yeah.
add stress to my life, which in turn might actually get me to be like more angry when I'm on the road. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just really counterintuitive to me. So
Yeah. Simultaneously talking about protecting the taxpayer's wallet while threatening to anonymously surveil them with various cameras around the city is kind of
yeah,
interesting. But I don't know. I
yeah,
don't like the idea of surveillance. I like the idea of actually, molding the behavior so that, it makes it, sort of difficult to actually uh speed. I should say I want to clarify, I was not speeding when I drove into the tree.
that's
I
fair.
should I should clarify. I was
You
not
were
speeding.
sneezing. You kind of
I
had
was
like a legit
sneezing,
reason, like if you,
but
it was
yeah,
a
it was a
reaction. So
bad
for the
bad
record,
scene.
Chad is telling me to slow down when I drive. But for the record, I'm like the supreme like old man driver. Um, if I ever have children, I will tell them, like, a lot of people think like driving fast is kind of like sexy, and like you can impress the opposite sex by like
Yeah.
driving like a maniac. But the truth is the way to impress people is to drive like an old man. Because what people, especially, if you're trying to impress a girl or something, what they really care about is just like getting there
Safety.
safely. Like, if I ever have children, I will definitely tell them this. Um,
I'll tell my children the same thing if and when I have
yeah,
them. But
just
because
drive like an old man.
yeah, my yeah, I learned fast after getting my full license, through enforcement, I suppose you could say, to
Okay,
slow down.
yeah, right, yeah.
Now
There's
I drive
nothing
like it's
there's nothing
nothing.
cool about
No,
driving around.
there truly isn't. I thought there was when I was like 18, but now I'm almost
Yeah.
30 and no, there's nothing cool. And I've thought that way for like the last 10 years. It's been 10 years since I've learned my lesson. So
My wife makes fun of me because I just drive so slowly sometimes. I'm like, I'm going like the limit, you know? It's like, because the real limit is like 10 above the limit in a way, right? Like you
mhm.
don't get stopped by the cops for driving 10 above the limit. So, but I just like to drive the limit on like cruise control so that like I know exactly what I'm going.
There you
And,
go.
I'm either like going up one kilometer or down 1 kilometer or braking. Anyways, we should move on. And
The
our
politics
heart
of
really
driving.
does.
Yeah.
What's that?
The politics of driving, I was gonna say.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. So
Yeah.
and our heart really does go out to the 3-year-old girl and their family. Again, if you are interested in donating, you can support them on their GoFundMe site. You can find it probably through most of the major outlets in Peterborough. I found the link through Kawartha Now. Um, the Theater on King was really a big topic of discussion last week, and we heard a lot of delegates come in during this past city council. There were actually a great many delegates, specifically for
Yes.
the Theater on King, but also for the Artisan Center of Peterborough and the arts funding in general. Because if you're not caught up on this story, you can go back and listen to last week's podcast, or we can just tell you right here that the Theater on King went from receiving the maximum amount of funding from the city, which was $15,000. The year before, they received $13,500, and this year they've received the bare minimum amount, which is of course zero. So
Mhm.
it is quite a shocking contrast for a project that the city has once invested in, and now in a way by removing the funding, I feel as though they are choosing to defund what is a cultural institution here in Peterborough.
Yeah, and throughout there were nine delegates speaking directly to this issue, and that's not including Ryan Kerr, who was uh, the director of the Theater on King, who was directly appealing to council for a reconsideration of the committee who was in charge of delegating, delegating these funds, um, to reconsider the fact that they went from $15,000, as you said, to nothing. And there's an excellent, very exhaustive article written by Bruce Head of Kawartha Now. If anyone is interested in checking that out, I think it's almost 7,000 words. So very in depth, play by play, sort of about what happened on Monday night. And so I'll do my best to kind of, speak to this overarchingly. But no, like we were saying last week too. I mean, the main issues that this kind of reveals is the way in which arts funding is distributed within Peterborough, and how a committee such as the Community Investment Granting Committee, how they might not be the best way, that process might not be the best way to allocate arts funding. So the the related concern to that is the amount of funding that is given to the arts municipally within the city of Peterborough. So there's these kinds of related and competing concerns, right, within this. And well, a lot of the delegates on Monday night spoke about the significance of the Theater on King. The overarching message was sort of the impact on the artistic community and the reasons why people choose to move to Peterborough, and why municipal funding for the arts is significant, not only in fostering the artistic communities within our city, but also the ways in which that sends a message to larger granting agencies that these artistic pursuits are worth investing in at the provincial, federal, or even international level, right? So that was kind of a sort of the argument, right? That in the past, funding for the Theater on King, they can then put that they've received this funding when they're applying to the Ontario Arts Council, for example. And that gives them another checkbox to say, like, look, we have the backing of our city. And that means a ton for especially smaller arts organizations, or those that are less established, or are doing like sort of less mainstream artistic pursuits, which I think the Theater on King is a really good example of, right? Like it's a space for experimentation within the city that really does need to be fostered and allowed to continue. The other sort of argument that was being put forward, I'm not gonna, I have all the names of the people here, but trying to keep them all straight and quote them directly, that's what I'm going to leave that to Bruce in his article, right? But he, the other thing that kind of came forward and the point that kept being made is that we would have no theater in Canada or North America or even the world really if it wasn't for government funding, right? Like theater is not something that really makes a lot of money. That only really happens at the highest echelons of theater. So like your Royal Alexandras or like Broadway and these sorts of things, right? Where they're just blockbuster productions that are occurring, right? But for the vast, and there's instances like the Stratford Festival, for example, receives tons of municipal and government funding, right? And we would never think to not fund that, right? But here we have, so again, if people want to have theater within their community, then they need to fund it municipally, right? And by doing so, they're actually allowing for greater opportunities down the road for people to sort of attain that funding. And this is really a story that is centered around the Theater on King, but I think they just kind of became the focal point of this entire argument. Like the larger argument is that Peterborough really does need to review the ways in which arts are funded, the processes by which it is funded, and then the amount that it's using to fund it as well. Yeah, that was my
Yeah.
long-winded rant. So
No, that was great.
In conclusion there, what ended up happening is there is an appeal process, right? And so Ryan Kerr from the Theater on King and Denise Stone from the Artisan Center, so two organizations that did not receive funding during this round of the community investment grant, they appealed directly to council, and that was followed up by the delegates. And so there was a motion brought forward by Matt Crowley, Councillor Matt Crowley, to sort of add on to the original motion approving the allocation of funds to distribute money to those groups who were unsuccessful. Maybe not to the highest tier, but at least they get something in recognition of this, and that this would be drawn from the contingency fund in Peterborough, which is, I don't know the exact number currently, but last year I think it was over $2 million. And I think he was asking for a total of 54,000. So again, not a lot of money. That was then amended by Alex Burke, so we're just going to get into the nitty-gritty here to sort of bring that total amount of money down to 19,000.
Right.
That would be allocated between, I think specifically just the two.
Yeah, it was just the two that delegated, which was the Theater on King and the Artisans Center.
Yes, yeah. So from 54,000 out of $2 million, give or take, to 19,000, and that still was unsuccessful. However, the motion to review the process was successful. That did go forward. So the process will be reviewed. I've spoken to Kate Story following this meeting, and I think she rightfully has some reservations about, based on what was being said in council, as to what end the councillors want to see this process reviewed, right? Like it sounds like it's a good idea, like to review it, but I mean, there's certain, ideological and values-based judgments that are probably going to be sort of brought to bear upon the process itself. And they've kind of demonstrated the fact that they don't have the best interests of small local theater or arts in general. At least seven of the 10 councillors who were there, because Mayor Leal wasn't present, right? So there were only 10 people voting. But the 7-3, 8-3 votes are getting kind of tiresome at council, quite frankly.
Yeah. And I mean, to one of your points there, about how, and this is kind of like a something we touched on last week, is that like investing in the arts doesn't make money. But to just clarify what that means is that investing in the arts means that the city is not necessarily going to see a return on their investment directly. However, investing in the arts is something that stimulates economic growth, right? So to
Massively.
say
Yeah.
that it's not making money is false, because it is creating so much immense value. And as Kerr said in their delegation, that according to the city of Toronto, each dollar invested in the nonprofit arts sector by the city brings in $8.26 in earned revenues. So each dollar you're getting eight over $8 back. That's in Toronto, but you can imagine that there's a similar statistic in Peterborough. That the data probably just isn't available in the same way. So it is something that makes money. And one of the things that really stood out to me in these delegations that were like really well documented by Kawartha Now, was there was a doctor who said that they moved to Peterborough because of the arts community and because of the theater community specifically. So I thought that was really interesting, and it was just like highlighting, like, you know what? Okay, yeah, we need doctors. We need doctors here in Peterborough. And one of the hardest challenges is to get them to move to a place where a lot of people feel like, well, there's not as much culture as Toronto. I can't do as many things as I can do in Toronto. So I thought that was just like something interesting, and part of our appeal to being like a vibrant city is being a really strong arts community. In many ways, it's kind of like the only appeal of living in Peterborough. Like, what do we have
Yeah.
going for us in terms of like industry is like, well, we have the nuclear pellets factory, and we have oatmeal town, and we have really strong like arts and culture, and we have like really close proximity to nature, right? Those are kind of like the main things. I guess the MNR, Trent University, Fleming, honorable mentions, the PRHC, those are kind of the things that drive Peterborough. But in order to attract people to Trent and Fleming and the PRHC and elsewhere, it's also great to have arts and culture and community as well. So it's something that I think is just like, you know what? It's kind of our bread and butter here in Peterborough is all arts and culture. And by kind of cutting off the flower, instead of watering the plant, it's kind of really disheartening, and really concerns me about where this city council is headed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought up Dr. Laura Lawson, because this was kind of the sweetest, like I couldn't have scripted it better. And I should say too that this is all taking place on like World Theater Day. So like it was
Oh
it
my
was it
goodness,
was it was
really?
a wonderful moment. So many of the delegates started off by saying Happy Theater Day. Why don't you fund Theater
Mm.
King, more or less. But no, so Dr. Laura Lawson, who's she's a professor at Queen's University, and she's a nationally trained professional dancer from the National Ballet of Canada as well. And as you said, she said that she moved to Peterborough specifically because of the art scene, and a lot of her physician um, colleagues also made the same decision for where they find themselves, whether or not that's Peterborough or elsewhere. That's what attracts physicians. And the one of the first reports that were spoken to by a delegate on Monday night was the physician recruitment presentation that had been given a couple weeks prior to the general committee, where they talked about everything under the sun regarding how to bring doctors to Peterborough except arts. Like
Really?
so,
Okay.
so it was kind of it was delightful in that this is like a very serious ongoing issue within Peterborough that they had just finished approving prior to saying no to funding the theater on King. So it could not have been scripted better to have like the final delegate that night speak to not only the importance of the arts and theater on King and everything else to do with municipal funding for the arts, but then to also speak directly back to physician recruitment. Like it was amazing. It truly was delightful. I spoke to Sarah McNeely afterwards, and I was like, this was gorgeous. There was such an energy in the room, and Gary Baldwin, Councillor Gary Baldwin, Deputy Mayor Gary Baldwin, lots of titles, many hats. He was chairing this meeting, and he kind of let slide a lot of the clapping, like the appreciation for a lot of the delegates moving forward. So there was an interesting energy in the room that night too. There
Hmm.
were people in like the overflow viewing areas that I spoke to during a brief break, and yeah, it wasn't as like somber, quiet an occasion as council typically is, and that had a lot to
Yeah.
do not only with the passion, but also I think like the focus being on their emotions were riding high, in
Right.
both senses. I don't think
Seems
the end result is surprising at all, though. Unfortunately.
yeah. In a way, I wish we had less political theater and
Yeah.
more theater.
Well, Leslie Parnell was on the dance team in grade 7, so she knows a lot about arts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, like what? Like 90 years ago?
Now.
Now, it was bothersome that Leslie Parnell did say that this is a starter fund and you're either going to make it or break it. And then
Mhm.
some other new group will have the opportunity at this arts funding or whatever the grant funding was, Parnell said. And
Mhm.
that to me is just kind of silly because if you recall, we are going through still a global pandemic.
This is true.
And there were challenges to the pandemic, especially for the arts community. And I think just the fact that the Theater on King received funding for several years already, that doesn't necessarily mean that they were going to like make it or break it. And I think that's just like a really capitalist kind of tendency that we have here is just like, okay, well, we funded them. They couldn't make it with the money that we've already given them. Therefore, they're not of value to the community and we need to defund them. And
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, there is no making it as a theater. There's just continuing on. And I think in many ways also the Theater on King has made it because
Yeah.
they've found so much success not just in Peterborough but like provincially and federally, across the country, because like some of the plays have gone on to win awards and be presented in festivals. And it's really just like it's not really how it works. There's no making it or breaking it. There's just going on. There's continuing. there
Yeah.
there's life going on.
Yeah. And I mean, the arts needs investment from government in order for it to continue on. I mean, art does not like function along the same capitalistic lines of making it or breaking it, or like seed money to like start your theater. Like that's important when you're buying like your first like maybe like lighting operation or something like that. That's helpful at that point, but then from there on, like you still need the
Yeah.
support and the funding. Because I mean, the again,
Right.
it's very, very, very frustrating. And I mean, we had Terry Guile from the Downtown Businesses Association, the DBIA, come out, and one of the questions posed to him was, if council is to give some money to some of these organizations, do you think the DBIA would be able to help out? And his immediate answer is, yeah, of course we can figure out a way. We can work together. So like you have like a representative of like the core businesses in our community coming out and saying this is essential. Like
Yeah.
everybody in the downtown benefits when there's a reason to go downtown, which isn't a restaurant or something like that. Everybody benefits when you're funding event space and community space, like the Theater on King is like the
Yeah.
underlying message there, right? And so it's very it's very, very frustrating that council could hear from such a diverse array of people coming from so many different perspectives and backgrounds and reasons why they feel the Theater on King is an important um, facet of our community, um, and to still say no, it's not worth $9,500. Like, come on. Like, I like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I I don't know. And so I
Especially when, as Kerr pointed out, you're seeing that money back. That money just is helping
yeah
drive the economy in Peterborough. Yeah, and it is
yeah
crazy to me. It's always like, hey, like it was almost like when the police were on board with the additional funding for overflow shelter. It's
Mhm.
like, hey, even my greatest enemy is saying that we need to do this. So
Yeah,
why don't we just all collectively agree and do this? And in this case, it's like, yes, even the like elite business interests of downtown Peterborough, again, they also have a vested interest in this. And it's like, these are literally
absolutely.
situations where like everybody wins and everybody agrees, and city council is like, no. And it's
Yeah.
just it's like wild. It's like wild to me, that we can't allocate this, what was it, $19,000 out of a two
19,000
million
between two. Yeah.
dollar
Yeah.
contingency plan in order to help stimulate the economy of downtown Peterborough. And it's really sad. Unfortunately, Councillor Riel also said that it would be a disservice to the
Yes.
11 members of the committee to question their decisions about the applications. To which I say, well, then how come it was unanimously voted upon that this application process needs to be reviewed? It's not,
Right.
and
Right.
and to take it personally, like, hey, we did our job. It's like that is not the point, my friend. Like,
Like,
you need to take a look at the process.
yeah.
Not It's not about you,
Yeah. It
Keith.
it really begs the question, like, are these people like this sadistic that they're like, no, I absolutely read this and it deserves nothing. Like, do you not think, like, given more money that everybody would have been able to receive at least a little bit of money, which is essentially what this motion was doing, right? It's saying, okay, we need to review the process, and in the meantime, here's a little bit, right? Here's a little bit of what was requested. And like, honestly, I can't imagine sitting on a committee of this nature and taking an affront to such an innocuous thing, like, oh, we are going to, like, that's good. That's why you sit on committees, is to not to punish, but to like reward the work of these people, right? Like, if you're sitting on a committee to deny funding, then maybe you should reconsider why you're sitting on a committee. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I really don't know. And I say this as someone who's hasn't quite yet, but is going to be sitting on a municipal committee, the arts and culture advisory committee. um like, I can't imagine,
I
sitting
know.
on any form of committee that would punish, that would have a punitive stance. And that's exactly what Riel's saying. It's like, this is
Yeah,
calling into question their judgment. Well, not really, because you set an
I know.
arbitrary line, and anyone below that arbitrary line was denied funding. You can move that line. That line is arbitrary. You created it yourselves. It's not it's not fixed in stone. And even if it was, just break the stone. Council has, and it was said really well
Right.
tonight, that that council has the ability to like create a precedent here, that they believe strongly in arts funding, and they just blew it. Well, 7 of the 10 present blew it. I should
Yeah.
stipulate that the same three who tend to vote along progressive, sane lines, i.e., Councillor Burke, Lachika, and Crowley,
Yeah.
again came forward in favor of this, and the rest of them don't. And the reasons for it are just as sort of pernicious and bizarre as they tend to be. That fixing the protecting the taxpayers. Well, a lot of, as Joy Lachika said quite rightly, a lot of taxpayers want to see their tax money funding arts. A lot of
Yeah.
people want to see that be the case. They want to see transit being funded. They want to see bike lanes, like you brought up earlier, to bring this whole full circle. They want to see their tax money funding these kinds of things. They don't just want it going back into police budgets, security cameras, and all the other sort of bullshit that they keep bringing up as solutions to problems that oh, I'm getting animated now, Danny. This is good. But yeah, like
Finally, we're
it,
6 episodes deep, and you've
there we go.
finally become animated. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, totally. And I mean, honorable mention to Joy Chica, who was particularly strong on this issue. Being the downtown councilor representative. And the thing is, I'm just so tired of the like conservative counselors saying like, oh, but we have to think of the taxpayer, because what they're really
Damn it.
saying is that we have to think of my opinion. and my opinion is, and they're trying to just justify their own opinion by associating it with what the taxpayers want, and that is not true. The taxpayers represent a diverse group of people, and just boiling it down to this one thing and saying that they have the best interest of the taxpayers is like, okay, well, which ones? You have to actually go and like collect like data on this if you're gonna just use this as a catch all for whatever it is that you want to do. Why is it that the taxpayers coincidentally, whenever you bring them up, happen to agree with you and exactly what you want to do? No offense to Keith Riel and Andrew Beamer and all of them, but I don't think they are exactly counselors of the common folk, to put it in a certain way. Anyways, we must move on. Unfortunately,
Yes.
as you were saying, this was a 10-person vote, and that was because Jeff Leal was on vacation. So he was able to call in to say na 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 hey hey goodbye to Sandra Clancy,
Yes.
but he was not able to call in to be a leader here when a very important issue like arts funding was on the line, and he was not even able to vote. Not that his vote would have changed anything, but I think that it kind of speaks to his leadership, because it's not necessarily about your one vote, because you only get one vote. It's about your leadership, and it's about whipping the votes in order to fund really great things like the Theater on King and the arts program in general.
Mhm.
Now, Kemi Akapo on Twitter had kind of a spicy tweet here, saying that Jeff is on vacation. Good for him. Everyone deserves rest. I wonder if he'll face the same outrage as Diane did. And Diane Tyrion, our former mayor, responded to this and said, oh my goodness, why are there so many tweets below this? Oh wait, it's just because Twitter's bad. Diane Tyrion said that, wonder if it made it on the front page of the Examiner. And this is a reference back to when Diane Tyrion needed to take a break, because they were, taking care of themselves and their mental health during the pandemic, during a lot of like sexist and attacks against her, and there's nothing wrong with taking a break, but also Jeff Leal just started this job and is already taking a break, and of course nobody talked about it because we have this double standard. An old white man needs to take a break, but a young passionate progressive woman, at the moment that they think of themselves and take a moment to take care of themselves so that they can take care of the rest of us and do their very important job, that is something that faces a lot of criticism.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself there. I mean, yeah, the double
Okay,
standard is
fair.
real, and having spoken to Diane a lot, I'm not surprised. Like, yeah, this is just par for the course double standard in terms of how it's talked about in the media. Yeah, it's frustrating as someone who also like works in like yeah, I, everyone deserves
Yeah,
a break. I'm not gonna like deny that if Mayor Leal's on vacation, that's good for him. But this is like is it the fourth council meeting in his term, and he's on vacation. But
right.
I'm not going to begrudge him that, just as I wouldn't begrudge Diane or any other leader for taking a vacation, if and when they need to. I think that's an important thing. But there's also like the optics, of course, of the mayor does have a responsibility to kind of work closely with council to sort of, as you said, whip votes, and that obviously did not happen here. However, he and his vote, even if he did vote in favor, would not have actually changed anything. But he was, of
Yeah,
course, able to phone in to say goodbye to Sandra Clancy. Um, yeah,
which is kind of weird too that he had enough time to call in for that. um I
well, you
guess
can't expect him to be
speaking
sitting on. I don't know. I don't even know where he is. I meant to ask around, but I did.
right. What
I
was the
should figure
call
it
in
out.
like? Like, do you think was he wearing like a suit in the on top and like swim shorts on the bottom? You think?
I think Jeff Leal is always wearing a suit, no matter where he is. I've never seen him not in a suit. I'm just kidding. I have, but no, he probably was wearing a suit just for the.
Okay.
He was. I wonder if he took the necklace with him. Uh,
Right. So but he's not like on vacation. He's not like in Aruba or something like.
I'm not sure. I'm not. I don't know if he's on like a destination vacation or where he's at.
Right.
But
And as someone is pointing out in chat, there's electronic voting. Is that true?
oh yeah, yeah. No, people can. Yeah, it's all electronic. All the voting's electronic. Yeah,
So he could have zoomed in for the whole meeting,
yeah, yeah. He could have. Yeah. A lot of the times,
theoretically.
like theoretically, he could have. Yeah. Yeah. No, there's been many instances where counselors. I mean, that's how they did it all through COVID. It's all remote and online, and so when counselors are sick and they can't come into chambers for whatever reason, then they're not zoomed in, but they use Teams. Teams is the preferred. If anyone's interested, Teams is the preferred method of communication in Peterborough City Hall. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
That
so they have
explains a
it.
lot.
So everyone's on a Teams meeting throughout this, and yeah, it like you can see them drafting motions and stuff on Teams going back and forth. It's kind of interesting, but yeah. So yeah, and Jeff Leal totally could have attended um, virtually. Um, that is
Okay.
that is a fair point. However, we're not gonna like draw the double standard and say he can't, but we're gonna because he can
Yeah.
be on vacation. We're not gonna begrudge
He
him
certainly can.
vacation.
I
So
guess
that
I
would
just
be
do wish that he was more of a leader. It just seems to me
yeah,
that he kind of like there's this imbalance of counsel, and there's some like really great things here, like reconsidering how we're funding the arts, and I think that's a really important issue.
yeah,
And I wish that he was in a way just like doing something to even just like court the more conservative counselors and help them to see that this is of the economic interest of the city. But I
yeah.
mean,
It would
we don't
be
really get that. We kind of just get this kind of like neutral position from Jeff Leal. There's no public statements. There's no like we need to act now. There's no urgency. It's just like, okay, well, this is the way council is, and everyone here are the people who will vote for progressive things, which you equate to the sane things, which I do agree with. It's like, yeah, these things that make sense for our city,
yeah,
and there are people who are the like fiscally conservative, and it seems like by just being neutral, the way Jeff Leal kind of has been, it's just like, okay, well then by default we are falling into like fiscal conservatism, um, which is in
yeah,
itself, not good economic policy. It's just
yeah,
like, okay, well we need to pinch every penny.
yeah. He is kind of Mayor Leal has kind of fallen short. I shouldn't say I had expectations of this being any other way, to be clear.
Yeah,
However, what I would have liked to see would be more of an active role in terms of attempting to bring people on side in terms of vaguely progressive policy. Um, Not to say like he would suddenly become like like a flaming socialist or whatever, but at least leaning more towards like progressive policies in general. But I think this has a lot to do with Jeff Leal is just he's an old school liberal, and he just kind of lets the cards fall where they may. Like he understands
yeah,
that well, it's the will of the majority, and these are free thinking individuals who have their individual rights to explain their stance. And if the most of the people say that this is what they want, then this is what happens, and it's not my place to. But it actually is his place to kind of steer
yeah,
people towards things. However, I think, and like this being the first council that I've actually covered as a working journalist, it's my understanding of the previous council is that when mayors do that, it doesn't have the best impact on morale. But however, I would just say that councilors should maybe just grow up if they don't like having a mayor do their job. I don't know. I feel like that's probably the approach I would suggest, that if you're
yeah.
salty at your mayor for attempting to carry out uh, a platform, then perhaps you
Sure.
should re-examine why you're on council. I don't know. Maybe
I
run
guess I
for
could
mayor.
understand.
I don't
I
know.
guess I could understand maybe why some of these counselors might have a problem with a young progressive woman coming in and telling them what to do. But
That's
that's
true
where I
too.
think Jeff Leal could be effective because
Yes.
he can use his white male established politician presence to be
Yeah.
like, hey, you know what, fellow like white men, we should invest in the arts. Like that's what that is like. That is basically the thing that he has going for him. Is that he kind of has this position where he might be able to stray some of the more fiscally conservative counselors on
Yeah.
these issues. But yeah, he kind of
A
just
hundred.
like
A hundred
throws it
percent.
up and like, oh, the wind is blowing this way, so I guess
Yeah.
so am I.
Yeah. I'm not gonna stand in the way of these counselors doing what they want to do. Yeah, I mean the perfect example of that is when I interviewed Diane on my radio show. She talked about the fact that she'd been working for months to try and bring council back in person for the remainder of her term, and it was just
Hmm.
nope, 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 nope. But then Jeff Leal gets elected in the first meeting. One of the first things he decides is council is back in person in chambers, and everyone drops everything and makes sure that that's the case. She's like, it's that's what we're working with here. So you're absolutely right that yeah, he can use his positionality as an experienced older white man politician to sort of
Yeah.
have some sway in this regard. However,
Right.
I'm not holding my
And
breath.
and don't get me wrong, like just in case our listeners are wondering, like I don't think that kind of like inherent bias against women and young people, like the way there was a bias against Diane Tyrion, like that is not acceptable. That's exactly why I'm pointing this
Yeah,
out, is
yeah, no,
because
exactly.
people have those biases, and Jeff Leal has the chance to use his privilege um for good, and I believe that is how you should use privilege. Um,
Mhm.
but there are other stories. The last or a couple more stories before we finish today. Nothing too major, but Michelle Ferrari, our MP. I guess since we're talking about younger women's voices that we should maybe listen to, here's one maybe we shouldn't listen to. Just to show that I'm not being completely biased here. Like I do have principles other than identity politics that I do stand for. And as you may have heard, as will surely be news in today and the days to come, the federal budget has been announced by Chrystia Freeland and the Trudeau Liberals. Of course, this is something that will drive any conservatives to attack, because nothing that the Trudeau Liberals do can be certainly good. Personally, it's not something that I've been able to dive into yet. Budgets are really hard to understand, and we kind of like leave it up to the experts to tell us like what is important here. Um, Normally I probably would have watched a little more about it at this point, but since I'm having a bit of a sleepy day, I was not able to this morning. I do have one quote here from Michelle Ferrari. Never before have we seen a government spend so much to achieve so little. This cost of living crisis is destroying families across the country with increased financial anxiety. The budget's lack of supports for mental health speaks volumes about this government's priority. So this makes me think maybe we should keep Michelle in power, and conservatism is the way to go, because I am somebody who is concerned about mental health. Does this mean that I should vote conservative? Sebastian,
Yes,
what do you think?
absolutely, Danny. You should absolutely vote conservative. I'm not quite sure where she's getting this attack on everyday Canadians. I think this goes back to like just dog whistling conservatism. I've been
Yeah.
listening to Pierre Polyev, and reading about what he's been saying, and he speaks in like these ridiculous little rhyme schemes that
Right.
just
Everyday
like
Canadians, that means people of color like me, right?
yeah, yeah. It's kind of infuriating, especially like yeah. I mean, there are, from my understanding of the budget, one of the big things that I imagine the conservatives are not happy about is a restructuring of taxation on the richest Canadians. They're probably not going to be too happy about that. It's also delaying any surplus by 1 year. However, given like the context of the larger economy globally, I don't think that's surprising. And that's what
Right.
politicians do. They just keep pushing the budget and the surplus down the road. I mean,
Yeah.
Ontario, however, it turns out if you cut everything worthwhile in a province, then you can get surpluses earlier, because that's essentially what Ontario did, is by cutting healthcare, education, social services, everything. You end up with a whole bunch of more money, which is wonderful,
Oh, okay.
right? So
Nice.
unfortunately, the federal liberals, by investing in like dental care and GST rebates and these kinds of things, unfortunately, we're not going to have a surplus until I think 2028. But
Yes.
so, but
When will we balance the budget?
but we'll have teeth.
I'm really concerned about this.
It's going to
I
balance
every day
itself.
I wake up and I have an existential crisis and I think to myself, the budget is not balanced.
I know.
Everything is out of whack.
It's at the
You know,
front of
this
my
is
mind every time I go to the grocery store. I'm like, oh,
yes.
if only the federal budget was balanced right now, I would be having such a
Yes.
better day.
I
But
know.
unfortunately, so when that day comes in Ontario, when we have like a couple $1 million surplus, that's the day I can retire. That's
Right, exactly. And I mean it's something that we see on all these levels of government is there's this like they're trying to run the government as if it's a household, right?
yeah,
And it's not the
yeah,
way it works. They need to invest in things to improve the quality of life, to make Ontario or Canada or Peterborough a better place to be and live. And those are also the things that will drive economic growth as well. So even though I think that the liberal federal budget is a lot of half measures and doesn't go
mhm,
far enough, I know of course that under like fiscal conservatism, like what Michelle Ferreri, the alternative is it nothing would substantially improve. If anything, it would get much worse, because one thing that the conservatives fail to ever bring up is what they would do instead. They're too busy pointing the finger, saying Trudeau bad, liberals bad,
mhm.
and we don't really hear like, oh, okay, so like is it the dental care or the supports for marginalized Canadians? What exactly here is the problem that they're having? They never really say, and because they just want to keep this broad attack, um, because that is what, unfortunately, that is what works politically. Is like, hey, we're going through some hard times right now. We're on the verge of a recession. Things are going to get worse before they get better for Canadians, and by just reminding people that Trudeau is the one in charge, overall, people who, for the large part, don't follow politics will be like, yeah, well, it must be the leader's fault. It's kind
Yeah,
of like when your hockey team sucks and they fire the coach. Like it's because like we got to do something to make it look like we're gonna win next season. And
yeah,
it's a
exactly.
lot of the pressures of like global inflation and the global economy is there's really only so much that Trudeau can do. So it's a lot of political positioning. Michelle Ferreri, I think, has become like more and more vocal. I think becoming more and more useful to the Pierre Poilievre conservatives as well, because she is outspoken. She's willing to say a lot of stuff, even if she doesn't know what it means. I think she can just repeat the kind of the conservative party line.
Yeah, she's very good at repeating things that she's been told erroneously. Yeah, Pierre Poilievre has been out there calling the current federal government an NDP government. So again, like for the longest time when he was running to be leader of the Conservative Party, he's called himself the candidate for Prime Minister of Canada. And like
Yes,
that's
yes.
infuriating to me for like a whole bunch of different reasons, but I think it just kind of feeds into like this um just willingness to misrepresent the way in which politics work in Canada, how our actual governments are formed, and the reasons behind that, by like downplaying that and by spreading this kind of weird spin on things,
Hmm.
contributes largely to why people are so upset about what transpires, right? And it feeds political apathy,
Right.
because people don't want to be engaged in a process that they don't understand. And if they're, if you try to point out like, oh well, this actually isn't the case, we actually don't have an NDP government right now, we don't even have a coalition government, um, we have a supply
Yes.
and confidence agreement between two political parties who command the majority of the House of Commons. Like that's the way it works. at no point is any leader of an opposition a candidate for the Prime Minister of Canada. They assume that office by virtue of their being the leader of the party that commands the majority of the House. It's infuriating to me, this Americanization of politics. And
Hmm.
but yeah, I think it speaks to the ways in which like the discourse about the leaders and stuff just like is a distraction from the actual larger context, right? Like it completely detracts from like the experiences and the reasons behind what is transpiring and what is actually being done. And I think that the Liberals could have done, they could have and should have done a lot more, but I'm heartened to see that they actually have to work with the NDP on a lot of things, because I don't think they would otherwise. Quite frankly, I think the Liberals, being Liberals, they don't do anything unless they have a fire under their ass, and if that fire is the NDP being there, reminding them that they need to make progressive moves such as dental care, it wouldn't be happening. So I
Yeah,
think we'll
I
have
mean
teeth in
that's
2028. I'm looking forward to having teeth in 2028 when the budget is balanced.
yes, finally, finally. I
Yeah.
know I got a cavity, unfortunately, as a result of my chemotherapy,
Oh.
which can increase your chance for like mouth bacteria and tooth decay. So unfortunately, that happened to me. But I was excited to find out that we have universal dental care now in Canada, which is not true. Unfortunately,
That's
it's
not
only
true.
for like children.
I was waiting for the ball to
And
drop there. Like, wait,
yeah.
what?
Um,
Why
I
why did I
know.
spend
So,
a month's
you
rent on
know,
a root canal 3 months ago?
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's really unfortunate that, we're only able to take half measures. But again, as someone who is left of the NDP, because I consider myself actually a socialist, not a neoliberal, virtue signaling person,
Yeah.
I I do also recognize that, hey, if the ruling Liberal Party can be pulled even slightly to the left by the NDP, who is also a Liberal Party, that this is kind of the best that we can ask for in
Mhm.
our modern political climate. We still talk about socialism like it's the boogeyman here in Canada, and even Jagmeet Singh, who is scared to use that word, and a lot of people just point to Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh and say this is communism, which it couldn't be further from the truth. It's just like they're doing a couple half measured decent things like giving dental care to children, and they're not even doing that really. They're just giving cash rebates to parents,
Yeah.
and they can spend that money however they see fit. And it's also means tested to certain incomes. So there's so much that is like inadequate about it. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, we have people like Michelle Ferreri and the people who buy into their propaganda saying that even these half measures are bad. Like children
Yeah.
getting dental care is bad because it's fiscally irresponsible. And it's like, well, this is why we can't have nice things like universal dental care, is
Mhm.
because we can't even get those band-aid solutions without the conservatives crying about the budget being balanced, right? So
Yeah.
it's like progress is always being kind of stopped when those real things that we need in order to achieve change, which will also save us money,
Yep.
like
In the long run. Yep.
universal dental care.
Mhm.
We can't even have those nice things because there's too many crybabies out there, unfortunately.
Crybaby conservatives. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. I think we should rebrand the word hysteria. I've been thinking about this for a while,
Mhm.
because hysteria has often been used as like a misogynistic term towards women, but I think now in this day and age, it is actually something that applies almost exclusively to conservatives. And I just feel like it's time. It's time to rebrand.
Yeah. We should contact the Oxford Dictionary and get an
Yes.
entry in there. Yeah.
Yes. Get Mr. Oxford
Dictionary.com
on the phone.
maybe. Yeah.
Yes.
I
Okay,
agree.
well, we're
I
over
agree.
time, obviously, because we're always over time.
Always
But I
over
did
time.
want to say, just because I brought it up in the beginning, that Peterborough County townships are receiving some one-time provincial funding for the Derecho cleanup. This Durodummer Township receiving $140,000 from the provincial government. Some other townships, including Havelock, Belmont, Methuen Township, will receive $115,000, Autonomy South $95,000, and North Kawartha $59,000. So there's some weird discrepancies in these fundings. There's a big, a difference of almost $100,000 between some of these townships, and we don't really know why. We don't really know why there are these, but people are obviously concerned. North Kawartha Township was asking for $280,000 for their derecho cleanup, and they're only getting $59,000. So, just some interesting potential notes here on how we might be addressing climate change in the future, and how that is always going to be maybe disproportionate towards certain communities. Again, don't know why, or if Peterborough, like the city core, what kind of funding they're getting. But just thought I would bring it up since I said so at the very beginning. I was also hoping to reminisce very quickly about like your derecho experience.
I had a very interesting that I was in Oshawa, about to get on a GO train when it came
Oh,
right through the station, pretty much. And I was outside waiting on the platform, and when I ran to the train, onto the train, got absolutely drenched because it only ran for about like 2 minutes, right? Like maximum there. It was just torrential. And
yeah,
then we were on the GO train, going to a Blue Jays game, of course, naturally.
of course.
And yeah, so that was the actual event. Our train got delayed by a long time. We missed like the first 3 innings, and I was just wet and not having a good time. And we kept hearing like, oh, the power's off back home, and there's like trees down everywhere. And I live right by Victoria Park, and so when we finally got back and everything, and like we were out of power for like 3 days. I think we got it back on the Monday of the long
Okay,
weekend, late Monday, if memory
sure.
serves. But yeah, the next day I mean, fortunately it was good weather, and we just kind of hung out and cooked hot dogs on a Coleman stove all day, because we
Yeah,
just brought everything out of our freezers that was going to go bad, and we like collectively, all our neighbors in the building, just kind of cooked on a Coleman stove.
yeah.
Uh,
Okay,
yeah,
sweet.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And then eventually the power came back on. I went to the library at one point and charged some stuff, got some books, and just sat outside and read for like 3 days.
nice.
Yeah,
So you seems like a pretty painless experience for you then.
it was kind of like glamping, like I had like running water
Yeah,
and a
right.
bathroom,
I know.
everything was good. I couldn't really shower because it would have been too cold, so I was like,
Just smelling it up,
just
just
smelling it
stinking
up.
your way through the
Yeah,
derecho.
no one knew if it was the fridge or me,
Right.
because it
Yes,
didn't matter. It didn't matter.
those strong winds might have been coming directly from you.
Yeah, it was a rather painless experience, yeah, for me. I understand that
Okay.
it wasn't the case from a lot of people, but yeah, what was your experience
Yeah.
like?
It was also pretty glampy, I would
Yeah.
say. Like I had a couple of businesses I went to downtown who had power to charge devices and stuff like that. We had a power generator, or sorry,
Oh,
not really, like we couldn't power our house, but it was just like a big battery that you can use to like jumpstart your car.
oh, cool.
And it was a modern one, so we could like charge our phones that way as well.
Nice.
And
Nice.
glamping. My wife, I always make fun of her for this, but she wanted to get a hotel. And then I'm like, no way. We have running water, we have shelter. It's not hot water, but you can still have a
Yeah.
cold shower. It was like
Yeah.
4 or 5 days for us, I think.
Wow. Okay. So a little
So
longer than me.
she wasn't doing well with the no electricity thing though, which
Oh,
fair enough.
yeah.
Everyone is different, and but I'm like, no way. I will tell our friends, and I will make sure that they make fun of us for this if we get a hotel.
And now you've told
Um
like the anyone who listens to the podcast. I'm sure she's very
True. So
happy
like
with you.
at all of Peterborough, yeah,
Yeah.
and then
Everyone
I
in
don't know.
Peterborough.
Yeah, and we lost like a 100-year-old tree in
Oh
our
no.
backyard, which was sad. It was a
Yeah.
beautiful tree.
Yeah.
Shout out to all the trees who didn't make it.
Mhm.
And so overall it was pretty great. I think we ate really well because we're like, oh my god, we got to eat all this food in the freezer. So it was a lot of like dumplings,
Nice.
noodles, and stuff like that. So
Nice.
yeah. So hopefully there's not another derecho anytime soon.
I hope not. Yeah,
But
it wasn't the worst experience, but I can think of better ways to spend a long weekend.
yeah, I am worried about climate change in general. Of course, Peterborough might be a bit prone to flooding and whatnot. So
Mhm.
I wish we were more climate resilient, but my understanding is that Doug Ford is going to bail us out if there is a disaster.
Yes,
Can always count on Doug.
always, without
He's
a
gonna
doubt.
get it done. All
He's
right. One way we're like, yeah, we're open for
get her
business.
done. Yeah, open for business. Let's go with our yeah.
Yeah.
uh,
Unless those businesses have to close because of a climate emergency, but other than that,
oh yeah,
we're open. Just pave over those wetlands and
yeah. Build houses
develop
and
the green
do.
belt, and
Oh
we'll be
God.
okay. All right. Well, on this very apathetic kind of note, thank you so much for listening.
Absolutely.
Sometimes comedy is the best way to deal with some of the things that we're going through here in Ontario and on planet Earth. So thank you so much for listening to Peterborough Politics Podcast. We will see you next week.
Take care.
Bye. Oops, that was the wrong music. Where is it? Yo. Thank you so much, chat, for listening to us babble on forever. Jeez. Babylon forever. Which is to say Wakanda forever, obviously. Forget about Babylon. Babylon is falling. Yes, it's been a bit of a wacky day for stream. Because I started so late. But I always love talking to Sebastian. It feels like we definitely have a habit of talking too much, which I guess is good for podcast hosts. But maybe we should try to reel it in a little. Try to get that show under an hour. Trent Radio would never have us in this state. But yeah, I'm gonna keep streaming, I think, if y'all don't mind. Still got a couple things I wouldn't mind talking about. And there's some great content. Actually, you know what I would love to do is kind of get caught up on some of this federal budget stuff. By maybe watching some videos. That's the way to learn. That's the way to learn about some of this stuff.
The Liberal government
So
just released its latest budget and facing.
let's see. We got our good friends here at the CBC, who might help us educate ourselves. Let's take a look.
The Liberal government has just released its latest budget and facing a cost of living crisis and a possible recession. It plans to go deeper into the red and double down on what it sees as the economy of the future.
In what is the most significant economic transformation since the Industrial Revolution.
I'm so low. Why am I so low here? Wait, I'm just like I'm really low. What did I do? Oh, I moved the camera. God damn it! I screwed up all my cameras. That's what I get for moving my. Like, look, okay, I was fine here, but why am I so low over here? All right, let me. I'll let this play, but I'll fix myself.
Around the world, chief among them, the United States, are investing heavily to build clean economies and the net zero industries of tomorrow.
This government wants Canada not just part of that race, but leading it. The Liberals plan to spend $21 billion over the next 5 years on growing the clean economy and expect to accelerate that to $80 billion by 2034. Most of that is through a series of green tax credits. There are some measures to address affordability. The big one is dental care, something sought by the NDP. It will start to be rolled out this year and will affect as many as 9 million uninsured Canadians. Also, the Liberals are offering what they call a grocery rebate. That's on top of the GST tax credit for lower income Canadians. A single eligible Canadian will get an additional check worth up to $234. An eligible senior will get $225. So where does that leave Canada's fiscal position? It's worse off. The Liberals are expecting bigger deficits every year for the next 5 years when compared to last fall's economic statement. And that path back to a balanced budget, well, that's gone. Meanwhile, the outlook for Canada's economy has turned gloomier since the fall, and the odds of a painful downturn are potentially higher. All of that is a lot for Chrystia Freeland, the Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance, who joins me now. Ms. Freeland, thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be with you, David.
There's
Krista coming in with the full face of makeup today. You usually don't see her wearing this much, but I guess it is an important day for her.
$21 billion here over the next 5 years for green transition, mostly in tax credits. It's a lot of money, but given the stakes, the inflection point you've talked about, and the need to capitalize on this opportunity, I wonder if it's enough compared to the scale of what Joe Biden has put on the table in the Inflation Reduction Act.
Well, I think that it is. And you have to remember it comes on top of tax credits that we put forward in previous budgets. It comes on top of our price on pollution. It comes on top of entities that we have that lend money at good terms to clean finance companies, so like the Canada Growth Fund, the Canada Infrastructure Bank. So I think when you take everything together, the Canadian package is absolutely competitive with the US package. I think this is an investment that we're going to look back on and say this launched the Canadian economy for the 21st century.
Your officials in the briefings earlier today said you need $100 billion in global capital every year to make this work. I mean, when you look at $20 billion over 5 years in tax incentives, do you think you can get to the level that you get $100 billion every year investing into the clean economy transition?
I think that we can get our fair share. I think we can get more than our fair share because again, David, we've made a major investment this year, but it is part of a much bigger package. So yeah, I think we can get there. And the one other thing I would mention, because investors say this to me, what does Canada have to offer in this global race? We have these incentives, we have our government policy, we have natural resources, like nature has given us such an advantage, and we have Canadians. You know, I was talking to a Canadian car part producer.
Why don't they have a studio for this? Like, why is there like police officers and just randos like walking through a door in the background? I don't know. To me, I feel just like, yeah, exactly. The background is so distracting. Isn't this not the most important like part of politics? Like just the budget?
Producer who said absenteeism at the US plants that this person runs was 25%. In Canada, it's 8 or 9%. So we have all these.
It's just our national broadcaster, no big deal, right? You think they would have a place to do this type of work, but no.
Advantages, I think we're going to get there.
But I know when you met with the provincial finance ministers earlier this year, it delivered the message that you can't meet this challenge alone. So is the $21 billion over 5 years, $80 billion by 2034, is that everything you needed to do or everything you were able to do to meet this moment?
Well, when I said can't meet it alone, thank you for remembering that, because message to provinces, you guys have a strong fiscal position right now. The federal government supported you a lot on healthcare. We supported you a lot during COVID. And when it comes to supporting investments in the clean economy,
you think so? You think it's a vibe?
Provinces are going to need to be at the table too, and I'm confident they will be.
So is there anything you weren't able to do on this particular front? I know one of the issues, things in the subsidies is that the higher the wages you pay, the prevailing wage, which is adopting something right out of Joe Biden's plan in the United States, tied to union wages plus pension benefits and other benefits. The closer you are to that, the larger the subsidy you will get. Is there anything you weren't able to put in this package because of the fiscal reality you're facing with the slump in the economy?
To be honest, David,
I wish she would stop thinking about her own image for once and consider how I feel when I need to rebroadcast this this footage that CBC has taken, okay?
I am very happy with where we've landed on our clean energy plan. And, you know, when you talk about the weakening of the economy, yeah, that's happening, but it's not a surprise. And actually, it's on purpose, right? The Bank of Canada has raised interest rates very high, very quickly, because it wanted to slow down the economy. And in this budget, we're saying it's a budget for today, but it's also a budget seeing past this slowdown and saying we need to put in place the conditions.
Yes, help CBC, help me. All right, that's why we can't defund them. This is why the CBC needs more money.
To build the economy, to have great middle class jobs.
The slowing economy, the hike in interest rates, all of that has created an affordability challenge. You have the grocery rebate in this budget, which seems to be the centerpiece. It's like a double up extra GST rebate for people. But in big initiatives, that seems to be the extent of it. There's some smaller efforts on reducing credit card fees, for processing fees for small and medium-sized businesses. Have you done enough here to help people? For example, the $500 rental subsidy, not renewed in this budget.
So first of all, the grocery rebate, thank you for mentioning it. And I want to say to Canadians, especially low-income Canadians, do file your taxes. Because one of the things that we have found is there are a lot of people who are eligible for these benefits who don't file their tax returns. And that's an element in this budget, is we are moving towards automatic tax filing. That's designed to make sure if you're a low-income Canadian, you are in the system and you actually can get the money that you deserve. So that's an important element. The other thing I want to mention that kicks in this spring that is going to help particularly low-income Canadians is we announced in the fall we're going to expand the Canada Worker Benefit. And
have you done enough to help people? Sure. We're giving a tax break to people earning $200,000 who want to invest in property. Yes. I know. I mean, on one hand, it's so shocking that the criticism is always like, from the conservatives, is like, are you doing too much to help people by offering all of this? And won't somebody please think of the economy?
that means.
And then the other criticism is, are you doing enough to help people? And then the things that they are doing are like half measures or things that benefit the rich. I guess there is something here that is supposed to tax the wealthy, but we'll see.
That it's going to cover now around 4 million Canadians. These are low-income people, people working in grocery stores, people working in retail.
Yeah, just file your taxes.
We all discovered during COVID how essential their jobs are, and they don't get paid very much money. This is a benefit that's going to help them.
But why is the rental subsidy gone? $500 to help people deal with, if interest rates are up, you know, property owners are still going to pass that along to their tenants. That's been eliminated. Why?
Okay, wait, what? Is he saying that those are going to get those benefits of giving people $500 to give to their landlord? Somehow the landlord is going to reward the tenants? What?
You know, property owners are still going to pass that along to their tenants. That's been eliminated. Why?
No, they're not. That's why it was stupid in the first place.
In this budget, we worked very hard to find a balance. On the one hand, to make the absolutely essential investments Canadians need, investments in affordability, investments in healthcare, including dental care, investments in the clean economy, but at the same time, to do it in a fiscally responsible way. And I am really confident
No, landlords are going to pass on mortgage costs, i.e. rent go up, subsidy go down.
Found that balance, but does it mean we've done every single thing anyone would like? No, of course not. You know, to govern is to choose, and we've had to make some choices.
You talk about fiscal responsibility.
So wait, are you disagreeing with me, RJ Helms? I'm a bit confused. You actually think landlords are going to pass on the money that they saved to the tenants?
Deficit projections are up in every single year of the forecast now because of the extra spending and because of the declining economic picture. The amount we're going to spend every year servicing the debt is going to double from a couple of years ago of $25 billion to $50 billion. When you look at $50 billion a year lost now to debt servicing, you look at ongoing deficits, the surplus plan for 2027, 2028 is now gone as a deficit of $14 billion. How does that meet restraint? How does that meet fiscal responsibility as a standard for you?
Oh, that's why the guy was asking. Landlords are going to pass on costs, not savings. I'm trying to wrap my head around this. I don't know. I'm confused.
Well, let me say two ways. The chart you just showed was a really good chart because what it shows is the deficit is coming down.
I feel like I don't want to hear this directly from Christopher Freeland
We have a
because
deficit coming down percentage-wise from 1.5 to
there's too much
1.4%
bias.
this year. Dollar-wise, from 45 billion last year to 40 billion this year. And in each of those years, as your chart shows, coming down, coming down, coming down. That's restraint, that's responsibility. The other measure that I think is really important to bear in mind is comparing us to the rest of the world. And as we prepared this budget, I looked at what was happening in the rest of the world. In the G7, Canada has the very lowest deficit, the very lowest debt to GDP ratio. And then we looked at, let's compare Canada to other AAA rated countries. We have a lower deficit than Australia, a lower deficit than the Netherlands. So I think we are in a good place. I think we have made the necessary investments, because not to do that is a form of recklessness also. And yet we have done it in a fiscally responsible
But we have a
way.
higher deficit now, or projection, than we had in November, which shows that change. The economic forecast that is the underpinning of this budget was done in January before we've seen the challenges in the banking sector. So it's probably a bit more optimistic than it would be were it done today. You're making this big bet on the clean transition. You've locked in a lot of money for healthcare and for dental care. And now you have increasing debt and a slowing economy. I mean, how worried are you that we're going to end up in a recession or a prolonged economic slowdown later this year, and you're not going to have the fiscal room to deal with it?
So just to be a little bit detail-oriented,
Go right ahead.
the economic forecast was, the final one was done in February. And it's a private sector economic forecast. So just to be clear with listeners, it's not me,
But
it's
the
not
banking issues,
economists.
yes, absolutely.
So
But the
that-
banking issues are after that.
100%, 100%. And look, we've presented in the budget both a downside and an upside scenario, what things would look like if things get worse, if things, if economic slowdown is more pronounced, what it would look like
That's
if
pretty
it
bad.
is less. Yeah, but you know what? Canada absolutely does have the fiscal firepower to deal with whatever situation we face. I'm really, really confident of that.
Okay, Deputy Prime Minister, I know a lot of people want to talk to you. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, we do have more here from the opposition leaders. Although this is going to be very long, but I guess it's not the worst way to learn.
Budget 2023. It is a budget that fails people and the planet. It is very focused, but it's focused on things that don't deliver. One would have thought, with the focus across this country of Canadians looking at affordability, looking at challenges, we were hoping to see, as Greens, and I think other parties too, an amnesty on CERB repayments, hitting the lowest income people as CRA goes after people who can't afford to pay back. We were hoping to see the long-promised disability benefits with details about when disability benefit payments would start heading out to Canadians who need them, not in the budget. We were hoping to see new investments in housing. There is no new money, I repeat that, no new money in housing, except for very welcome investments in Indigenous housing, northern, rural, urban, and on reserve. Housing for Indigenous peoples, no other new money on housing, but some rearranged previous money. There is nothing there to help low-income Canadians except a one-time only grocery rebate. 1 week out of the next year, Canadians who desperately need help paying for groceries will see up to, for one family, $437 once in GST repayments. When we were looking to see help for people, what we see is, yes, as promised, dentist visits will be covered, that amount goes up, but there's nothing for pharmacare. We desperately need pharmacare in this country. We're the only country with a universal healthcare system without pharmacare. Looking at climate, all the investments are described as clean energy, clean economy. There are new investments in tax credits towards geothermal, that's excellent, towards solar, excellent, but towards things that aren't clean, not green, and don't help reduce climate emissions, such as small modular reactors, lots of money for SNC-Lavalin and its friends in SMRs, and new money for fake climate solutions, what called biofuel, like cutting down our forests to create wood pellets. We're disappointed in the measures that are there and very sad by the measures and the opportunities that were missed, like an excess profit tax, such as what the US was bringing in on the $65 billion profits of the oil and gas sector in Canada alone. There's no excess profit tax there, nor on the big banks, nor on grocery chains. There is money in new taxes and share dividend charges and so on. About $8.5 billion is in new tax measures on the wealthiest. That's welcome. But we were really disappointed at the lack of imagination, lack of courage in a wide range of measures. The Canada Water Agency, for example, was a Liberal promise 2 elections ago for $1 billion. It comes in at about $120 million over the next 8 years. Anyway, without diving deep in the details, je veux dire seulement que nous sommes déçus avec la possibilité des mesures pour aider les familles partout au Canada, particulièrement les familles qui vivent en pauvreté. Nous sommes désolés parce qu'il n'y a pas les fonds aider les peuples. Any questions you may have, mais je veux ajouter qu'il y a aussi nouveaux subventions pour l'énergie fossile.
I thought we were supposed to see the other guy as well. Aren't they like co-leaders of the Green Party? Do we get to hear from the other dude? I know that I can see there's the other MP speaking, or he doesn't count because doesn't have a seat.
Shocked to see new subsidies to offshore drilling in our east-west and north-south that's 100% decarbonized. And that is now in a conversation, but not delivered in this budget. So when you throw in nuclear small modular reactors, so-called, that are unproven, never have been built anywhere in the world, and again, I mentioned SNC-Lavalin in passing in my opening remarks, every Canadian ought to know why it is that the track is greased to support small modular reactors, because we know that SNC-Lavalin knows how to grease every track they come into, and SNC-Lavalin is the big private sector pusher of every small modular reactor project we're seeing. So they are not green, they're not clean, and when you take dollars away from renewables in order to put them in untested small modular reactors, you're actually damaging the track to 100% decarbonized electricity. You throw in what's a scam, Canadians can see it a mile away, cut down our forests, turn them into pellets, and call that climate action. I don't think Canadians are going to buy that approach to biofuels is clean or green electricity. And again, we're seeing that with adding fossil fuels to hydrogen, as well as referring to any development of clean electricity with a rebate if you're using fossil fuels, but you have in some way abated them.
What would you have wanted to see on affordable housing?
Anything. There's nothing new in this budget for affordable housing. I'm going to turn to my colleague, Mike Morris, to speak to this.
Advocates were calling for permanent, sustained funding. For example, with the Rapid Housing Initiative, there is no renewal of the Rapid Housing Initiative. There is a mention of the Home Buyers Bill of Rights. That was promised within 1 year after last year's budget. In this year's budget, there's no timeline whatsoever for it. And so while, to give credit, it's important, activists have been calling out for an Indigenous housing strategy for some time. That is an important new investment. Outside of that $4 billion, there are no new housing investments in this entire budget. And there are no new policies to shift the market. Homes should be places for people to live, not commodities for investors to trade. And the federal government could have taken action in this budget, for example, by removing the tax loophole for real estate investment trusts and using those funds to invest in affordable housing. They chose not to do it, and it's a disappointment.
You said back a decade ago that the Green Party was fiscally conservative and you supported balanced budgets. The deficit is $40 billion. Do you think that is justified?
Balanced budgets obviously are something you have to work towards. We've never had anything like a global pandemic. I completely support the government spending that we needed at the time. I agree with the language in this budget that our COVID spending saved lives. Probably 70,000 Canadian lives were saved by quick action, which we took, by the way, unanimously in the House of Commons, every party. And that's clearly going to create deficit. The track that they've drawn in terms of projected trends towards how bringing our budget back to balance is not unreasonable. And I don't think that when we look at the other authorities, Parliamentary Budget Office, large commercial banks, there's much panic about the fiscal guardrails and the direction we're on in terms of our fiscal position. But the deficit that you can never make up is missing the timelines and the one-time only opportunity we have to ensure that our children have a livable world.
So you think it would be fiscally responsible to spend more on social programs in this budget?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because we absolutely must ensure that the economy doesn't stall. We're looking at a shallow recession. Some of what we're looking at can be aided with continued government spending. We need a plan to get back in balance, but we don't want to stall a recovery by overreaction to what are inflationary trends that are not all about normal inflation. The budget fails to mention, for example, that one of the reasons that food prices are going up is the climate crisis. They refer to supply chain gaps. Those supply chain gaps in terms of food involve droughts and natural disasters and the inability to get food prices back down. So we need to be aware of the ways in which the climate crisis impacts our day-to-day lives, and we need to know that Canadians, having lived through pandemic, particularly low-income Canadians, need supports now, and like we should mention of supports, a complete absence of support for mental health programs. We know we need them. It's desperate, and other than the 1-888 suicide line, which we should all make a note of it, but we don't see the supports we need for mental health, addiction counseling in this budget that we were hoping to see.
The thing about the suicide line in Canada is they actually have two lines. One where you're that will help you prevent yourself from committing suicide, and one where that they will help you commit suicide. That's the crazy part. Just the MAID hotline.
If you had to give this budget a letter grade, how would you grade it?
The grades are always a tough thing. I gotta say, I'm really proud that we were able to force this government to expand dental care. That's gonna save money for families. That's gonna mean that they're gonna be able to take care of their teeth. And it's the biggest expansion of our healthcare system in a generation. It's truly gonna be life-changing, and it's something that we're really proud of. That's gonna really help Canadians in a real concrete way. And we're also proud that we forced this government to save people money, put more money back in their pockets with the GST rebate, which has been rebranded a grocery rebate. That's gonna put money back in people's pockets. It's something that's gonna make a difference in people's lives, and we're proud that we're able to do that. We're proud that we're, for the first time ever able to connect government investments to good wages. That's never been there before, having those strings attached that we're going to give supports and incentives to tackle the climate crisis only if there's guarantees for good wages, good pay, and support for union jobs. Like, that's something that's never been done before, and we're proud of that. We're also, on a number of areas, not satisfied that this government hasn't responded to the urgency of the housing crisis, that they haven't put in place changes to EI, given that we're up against a recession. So there's things that we're not satisfied by, but we're very proud of the work that we've been able to do.
So are you going
Hey, what's up, II? Come on with what?
to be supporting this budget is the big question.
Yes, we'll be supporting the budget. We're going to be supporting the expansion of dental care. We're going to be supporting giving people some money back in their pockets, helping them save money. We're going to be supporting the good wages tied to investments. We're going to be supporting the relief that Canadians deserve and that we force this government to deliver. En français, oui, on va appuyer ce budget parce qu'on a élargir les soins dentaires pour inclure nos aînés et les enfants de moins de 18 ans et les gens qui vivent avec un handicap. On a mis en œuvre on a forcé le gouvernement de continuer le
Yeah, I mean it's all he's got, you know. Like he has to call these half measures like great victories, because it's all he's got.
Doubler le crédit de la TPS, ça va mettre plus d'argent dans les poches des gens. Et on a, pour la première fois, lié les investissements dans les entreprises qui font face à la crise climatique avec des bons salaires. Donc, c'est la première fois qu'on a eu cette garantie que les investissements doivent être liés avec les bons salaires. Donc, on est fiers de ça. On va appuyer le budget.
C'est un budget, selon vous?
Donc, on félicite. On est...
Where's the dental? It's coming. Don't worry. That's the difference between the Liberals and the NDP, $200. Yes, and we're probably not even eligible to get it.
Fiers des victoires qu'on a obtenues. Donc, on est fiers du fait que les soins dentaires sont là. On est fiers du fait qu'on a forcé ce gouvernement de mettre le plus d'argent dans les poches des gens. On est fiers de tout ça. Mais en même temps, on n'est pas satisfait avec les manques des actions pour la crise du logement. Les manques.
That's kind of gross. I don't know how exactly you intended that, but that's kind of gross.
Des actions pour améliorer la science.
Yeah, I know, like if you're an edgelord, but are you that kind of edgelord? I don't know.
Donc, il y a des éléments où on n'est pas satisfait, mais on est fiers de ce qu'on a obtenu pour les gens.
Most of the initiatives, that were in the agreement with the Liberals have been covered with the last two budgets. Where does this put you going forward in terms of leverage and supporting the Liberal government when most of the priorities have been introduced?
We're proud.
Yes. Where, Jugmeat? When are you going to stop this agreement? Because you're not getting what you want.
That we've been able to force this government to deliver things. And let me be very clear. There would not have been dental care in this budget but for New Democrats. There would not have been an expansion or a continuing of doubling the GST tax credit, which is the grocery rebate, but for the fact we forced it.
These are all rebates. Like, it's like the NDP is like the penny saver that you get when you get the newspaper delivered. It's like flyers that are thrown in the middle and you can cut them out and save some money.
Government to deliver that. There wouldn't have been connections. There wouldn't have been clear ties between good jobs and investments in companies that are fighting the climate crisis, but for New Democrats. So we forced the government to do this. There's a number of things that are still that still need to be done by the end of this year. We still need to see anti-scab legislation. We still need to.
That might be me. The way becoming a content creator has gone. That might be me, RJ.
See pharmacare legislation, and we're going to make sure this government delivers those things as well by the end of the year.
What about the lack of a mention of pharmacare in this budget? That's a big ask for your party. I know they have until the end of the year to produce legislation according to your deal, but they didn't even mention it in the budget.
Well, they do have until the end of the year. I want to be very clear. We expect that legislation to be tabled by the end of this year and passed by the end of this year. That's according to our agreement. We're going to force the government to do that. They have until the end of the year. We're going to make sure they do that. It's very important to us, and we're going to continue to put pressure on the government to deliver on that very fundamental commitment that we forced them to make in our agreement. But it's a fundamental commitment for Canadians who want to see pharmacare happen.
Can you read the agreement with the Liberals since most of the stuff is completed?
Hooray! We're tapping into those sweet, sweet social programs, RJ.
I guess moving forward, come up with new priorities to support them to 2025?
So we have a number of things that are still outstanding that have to be done by the end of this year. We're going to continue to put pressure on the government to deliver on those things, and those things remain to be seen. So we'll continue to fight hard to make sure those are delivered, like pharmacare, like the anti-scab legislation. And there's additional things that we fought for. One example of that is the GST rebate. That was not in the agreement. We pushed hard to have it delivered last year, and we pushed again to have it delivered again this year. So that's an example of something that we've been able to push for something outside of the agreement.
Any concerns about the deficit forecast in the budget?
We are concerned about making sure we spend in a prudent way. And there's certain things that we can't afford to continue doing. We made it very clear we think it's irresponsible and something we can't continue to do to give billions of dollars to already profitable oil and gas companies. That's something we can't continue to do and we can't afford to do.
About time the social contract started paying off for me, yes. You've paid in enough. It's about time. If the Liberals call an election this year and win a majority, they won't have to follow this agreement. Yes, but that seems pretty unlikely. What might be more likely is a conservative minority, in which case the Liberals and NDP might have to figure out how they're going to make this supply and confidence agreement official.
We also can't continue to allow for tax loopholes that allow for billions of dollars of revenue to be lost so that we can't use that to invest properly in Canadians' programs that they need. So there's certain things that
Plus, if China has their way, we're going to have another Liberal minority.
the government has to stop doing that are irresponsible and are wasteful, that we will continue to push for this government to stop doing.
Does the budget do enough to fight climate change?
I'd say, sadly, not enough, but the steps that are in the budget now are things that we force this government to do. So the fact that for the first time we've made this strong connection, that if we want to fight the climate crisis, we have to do that by creating good.
I swear everyone is like bluffing. Like they're campaigning as if they're going into an election, but they're not.
Jobs and making sure people get good wages. We've done that in this budget. We forced this government to deliver on making sure there's strings attached. And I've been saying that for a while. We can't just give money away to incentivize the right decisions. We have to make sure that money is tied to guarantees for good wages and good jobs. And we've done that. So that's a positive step. But there's still a lot more that needs to be done. This government's failed to meet any of their targets. They've got to take their targets seriously. We need to see real action to reduce emissions, and we'll continue to fight for that.
Will you trigger an election if the Liberals don't meet the farmer care plan by the end of the year?
That's not a decision we're making today, but we want to make it very clear that there are certain things that the government has to deliver by the end of this year. And the pharmacare is one of those. We want to make sure that's absolutely delivered by the end of this year. In this budget, we have forced the government to deliver meaningful things that are going to make people's lives better, save people money, and help them with their healthcare needs, like their dental care needs. That's something that we're proud of.
I think so, actually, yeah.
And we force the government to do that. There's more things that we're going to continue to force this government to do by the end of this year.
Is this the last Liberal budget you'll support?
That is not, again, a decision we're making today. We are going to continue to fight for people. And our goal, like I've said always, is to force this government to work for people. People sent us here in a minority government. We respect that. We've been using our power to deliver for people, to save people money, to give people a break. Unlike the other opposition leaders and other opposition parties that have done nothing concretely to help people in this unprecedented, challenging time, we have used our power as a fourth party to meaningfully make a difference in people's lives. We campaigned on dental care. We delivered. We campaigned on making sure people got respect, and we delivered. We're going to continue to do that.
One issue you were pushing for was a national school lunch program to try and help with families struggling right now. It's not in the budget. I know provinces like BC are looking at a similar program, but what's your reaction to that, A? And then B, how realistic is that when education is a provincial priority?
I think it's a missed opportunity that the federal Liberal government did not move forward with a school lunch program. It's something that we can do. We can partner with provinces, have the funding to make a commitment to work with provinces to deliver this. And again, while certain areas are clearly provincial jurisdiction, that doesn't preclude the federal government from working together with provinces to deliver on things like childcare. That's something that is not necessarily a federal competence, but we actually used our power to force legislation to make that childcare agreement that the federal government was able to do permanent. We believe that's something that the federal government can do. We can work with provinces to deliver meaningful help to people, and that just because something is strictly a jurisdiction of the province doesn't mean we can't find a way to work with provinces to deliver that. And the school lunch program is an example of something that we can do if we work with the federal, with the provincial parties or provincial sections to work to make sure that's delivered. It can be done, it should be done, and we continue to believe that that's something that the government should have done in this budget, but it didn't.
The new spending is for obviously dental care. Are you concerned at all that Canadians are going to be upset with the NDP over this major spending that you did kind of hold over the Liberals to push through?
I think Canadians are going to see savings that they're going to realize. I think they're going to be happy to see that on average families are going to save at least $1,200 per year. That's meaningful. We're going to save families another $500 up to $500 by putting more money back in their pockets with the GST doubling of the rebate. So these are concrete measures to save money for people. I think Canadians are going to be happy with that, and they're going to be happy knowing that they're going to be able to get their teeth fixed. That's something that Canadians are going to be happy with.
Last question. Do you think that we'll ever see an excess profit tax under this government?
I'm concerned that so far the government has not really signaled an openness to doing that. And it's concerning because other countries around the world have acknowledged that that is a concrete way to tackle the greedy CEOs that are using inflation as cover to increase their profits. Other countries in Europe have put in place excess profit tax. We think that should happen here in Canada as well. It could happen with grocery store, massive corporate chains that are making record profits while charging record prices for Canadians. And so we still believe that that is the right thing to do. Excess profit tax can be put in place, and we'll continue to fight for that. Thanks so much.
On affordable housing, what would you like to see on affordable housing?
Thank you.
Okay.
Let's see, who do we got? Who is this?
Every time they contract out public services, it costs taxpayers more, and there's no accountability for the services. As well, the 3% cuts, as I just
All right, we're just
talked
gonna
about,
we're gonna skip to Polyev here.
For being here today. Plus payer la facture pour cette coalition coûteuse qui augmente les taxes, les impôts et l'inflation. Et c'est pour ça que le Parti conservateur votera contre ce budget inflationniste. Thank you very much for being here today. Today's budget by the costly coalition of the NDP and Liberals is a full frontal attack on the paychecks of hardworking Canadians. It equals $4,200 per family in new government spending. That's
Yeah. What would you like to see on affordable housing? He's like, I'm head out.
more inflation, more taxes, and more costs for everyday people. There's no common sense. We asked for three things. The government should have brought home lower prices by eliminating inflationary deficits and carbon taxes, brought home powerful paychecks with lower taxes that reward hard work, and brought homes people could afford by getting rid of the government gatekeepers to speed up and lower the cost of building permits. Those are the three demands we put forward, and those three demands have not been met. This is an attack on the hardworking people of this country, and that is why Conservatives will be voting no. Instead, we will vote to bring home powerful paychecks, bring home lower costs, and bring homes that people can afford. It's common sense. Let's bring it home.
A big chunk of the money goes toward, obviously, dental coverage. This is not something that the government ran on as a mandate. What do you make of this, that a huge amount of taxpayers' money is going toward this initiative when they didn't run on this issue?
Well, they didn't run on any of this. They've once again broken their promises, and they've poured fuel on the inflationary fire. Low-income, working-class people will suffer the most as a result of this costly inflationary liberal deficit. Conservatives will fight once again to bring home lower prices by eliminating the inflationary carbon tax and deficits, bring home powerful paychecks by lowering taxes to reward hard work and bring homes people can afford by getting the gatekeepers out of the way to build millions of new residents affordable for our workers.
It's because like Pierre Poilievre is a champion of people of color, obviously, right? So it gives him a little bit of credibility to have someone in a turban with brown skin standing right behind him. Because how can you accuse accuse conservatives of being I don't know, part of the white supremacist infrastructure that we have here in Canada?
veut maintenant lier les mains des prochains gouvernements pour vous empêcher.
Impossible. Justin Trudeau.
Impossible.
Why is that impossible? Why is it impossible for him to compensate companies?
Let's just follow how out of touch Justin Trudeau is. Justin Trudeau believes Canadian taxpayers should make multi-billion-dollar payments to powerful multinational corporations if ever a future government should reduce taxes on gas and home heating. That's what he believes. He believes the little old lady who can't heat her home and pay for her food should have to pay higher taxes to fund a multinational corporation if in any event, in any future scenario, we should lower taxes on energy. That is an outrageous attack on our working class. Another example of Justin Trudeau taking from the have-nots to give to the have-yachts.
How much of this do you think?
I don't know. This is just like ridiculous. Like, okay, yes, conservatives traditionally not friends with big business, and realistically, if you're not giving that money, those tax dollars to the transition towards clean energy, you're just giving that money to like oil and gas, so like it's really easy to stand there and say, Trudeau's in bed with big business, but one way or another, the government is going to be in bed with big business. The little old lady, LOL. Seniors are the most wealthy group in Canada. That is true. Mostly thanks to having basic income. Conservatives do not care for lower income households. Yes, I know. It's crazy how many people buy into this. How did the spin lowering taxes on energy corporations to give money to people who can't heat their homes? Yeah, it does. It's like saving the environment is going to destroy us all is essentially the conservative line here.
I think is related to the NDP deal that they have, and what do you think of the NDP saying we're supporting this because we've gotten what we need out of it?
We have an NDP government that is running massive
Sweet.
inflationary deficits, bankrupting households, keeping young people living in their parents' basements, forcing seniors to choose between heating and eating. There is literally
So confusing. It's so confusing. I mean, Sebastian was talking about this earlier, but it's just like there's so much misdirection here. And it's like ingrained in the conservative rhetoric right now that it's like it just misleads people. His base of voters is the incel basement dwellers.
literally only one party that is championing the hardworking people who contribute and make this country work. We, as Conservatives, will fight for a Canada that works for the people who work. It's common sense. We need to bring it home.
Common sense, need to bring it home. You're going to hear a lot of that over the next years.
Quand et de quelle manière?
Pardon?
Le retour à l'équilibre budgétaire devrait se faire quand et de quelle manière?
Mais tout d'abord, en arrêtant d'ajouter davantage de dettes. Aujourd'hui, le gouvernement a annoncé une autre 67 milliards de dollars de dépenses supplémentaires qu'on n'avait pas auparavant. Des mesures coûteuses. Il faut arrêter d'ajouter. Il faut mettre une cap.
That's right. Look at us over here with our NDP government that we elected by voting for the NDP because we don't contribute to society.
Il faut limiter les dépenses avec une loi qui oblige le gouvernement de trouver $1 d'économie pour chaque dollar de nouveau.
Chaque dollar.
Are a pair of measures in the budget.
Dans les poches des Canadiens pour que le travail redevienne payant encore.
Unforeseen interference are a pair of measures in the budget to try and deal with this. More money for the RCMP to investigate and liaise with diaspora communities, and the creation of a new counter-foreign interference office. Is that enough in your eyes? Would you like to see more? And specifically, what more would you like to see in the budget on that?
Well, it's not just more money. We need a prime minister who protects our democracy. This prime minister was aware that the dictatorship in Beijing was interfering in multiple elections to help him get elected, and he did exactly nothing. What we need is a prime minister who will bring home control of our democracy to this country. This country should control its own democracy, not Davos, not Beijing. No one outside of the walls of our country should determine what happens in our land, and I will stand up for our democracy.
In this budget that you
I hate this.
support, that you think will move Canada forward and will help Canadians when it comes to affordability?
No, there's nothing that will help with affordability. Everything in this budget will make it more expensive to eat, heat, and house yourself. But there is some positive proposals for First Nations that I'm glad that the government is plagiarizing, and I use the term favorably.
That's why his provincial counterparts like Ford, have allowed landlords to exploit tenants. Yeah. Federal conservatives will never answer for what their provincial counterparts do. It's like you never have to look very far to see what the end game of conservatism is. Oh God, got to get the Davos mentioned in as a dog whistle for the Nazis. Is it? What is Davos? Oh, it's something to do with the World Economic Forum? Oh, wow. Oh, my God. I didn't even realize that. So Davos is where the World Economic Forum holds its annual meeting in Davos, Switzerland. God, that's so gross.
My proposal to give First Nations more control over their money, their land, and their decision making. There's a whole section on that I think is very encouraging, and we want to build upon that. Thank you.
For workers that are tied into these tax credits.
Well, the Prime Minister wants to tax people's paychecks more. That's an attack on workers, not a benefit to workers. So we believe in.
Yes. Paychecks typically are something that is taxed.
Lower taxes that reward hard work. There's a war on work in this country. Right now, you can lose as much as 8.
There's a war on work. When a conservative is trying to tell you that there's a war on work, but not a war on workers, what do you think that means? That means if you vote for conservative, you're going to have to work harder.
89 cents for every extra dollar you earn. Losses that come through clawbacks and taxes. When you punish work, you get less work. A Polyev government will reform taxes and clawbacks so that people bring.
So what he's talking about here is a war on people who are wildly rich beyond their means. Say what you will about the WF, saying Trudeau is subservient to them is literally a Nazi talking point. Yes, that it is true. Saying that the WF is some sort of like world conspiracy is buying into like literal Nazi talking points and Nazi rhetoric. And it's really disgusting. Thanks for bringing attention to that, RJ Helms. Conservatives do not believe in Indigenous self-governance, and yet they claim to be libertarians. Interesting,
Bring home more of each dollar they earn, and hard work pays off. Thank you very much.
Hard work pays off. That under conservatism, we're just gonna have to work hard. Why am I so low? Why do I keep getting so low? I'm like getting lower every time I adjust camera. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me who's feeling low today. All right, what else do we got? Okay. Got a couple stories today. I thought this was something that was kind of interesting. It's because you're 12. That is true. I am growing up though. One day I hope to be a real man. One of our most tokenized conservatives, Leslyn Lewis, was trending on Twitter yesterday for reasons that are kind of uncomfortable, but of course, because conservatives are conservatives and they love identity politics, they love to parade around their only, I don't know if it's the only black member of their caucus, but definitely the most prominent one. So a lot of conservatives on Twitter, like this guy Harrison Faulkner, I always see, they're championing this move here from Leslyn Lewis, where she essentially had a bit of a moment here justifying why she should be allowed to eat with known neo-Nazis and not just eat, but also meet with them. And it's really weird. I don't want to give any of these conservatives any clicks. So I thought it would be better for us to watch the full footage, which you can get in HD, I realized, on the CPAC website. So it's really weird because nobody should be using other people's racism in order to justify their own racism or their own fascist tendencies. But of course, from the conservatives, that is kind of what we can expect.
Ensure that the Liberals put in place a legislative framework that will set the foundation for privacy, digital privacy in Canada. Thank you.
Okay, so this is coming off of a conversation. I think I was trying to find this exact point yesterday about digital privacy, and I don't really know how it turns into talking about neo-Nazis and Justin Trudeau's blackface, but I guess we're about to find out.
Questions and comments? Question or commentaire? The honourable member for Nunavut.
Privacy rights are fundamental. Small businesses are important, and I wonder if the member agrees that it's important to empower the privacy commissioner to enforce the protection of both those groups of people.
The honourable member for Haldeman Norfolk.
I thank the member for the question, and I do want to say that I am impressed that Bill C-27 does give the Privacy Commissioner some teeth to enforce penalties. So that I acknowledge, and I also see it as a positive that there is some attempt to create some sort of regulatory framework, but it does not go far enough. This framework has to start from the federal government and work its way down so that we have an umbrella legislation as to protect the digital privacy of Canadians.
Okay, so right now they're debating Bill C-27, the Digital Charter Implementation Act, an act to enact the Consumer Privacy Protection Act. Oh my goodness. The Personal Information and Data Protection Tribunal Act and the Artificial Intelligence and Data Act to make consequential and related amendments to other acts. Okay, I have no idea what any of this means.
Questions and comments? Question or commentaire? The honourable member for Pickering-Uxbridge.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to ask this honourable member a question. I'm just curious if she thinks there should be consequences or reprimand for members of this House who meet with known Nazis, who spread misinformation, disinformation, glorify the Holocaust, who speak against anti-Muslim rhetoric. I'm just curious if she's talking about online hate and privacy of Canadians and regulation. Does she condemn her actions by meeting with a known Nazi in this country who spout anti-Muslim rhetoric?
The honourable member for Haldeman Norfolk.
This Prime Minister has met with far worse individuals than I have ever met with. And I can tell you one thing, that a member of Parliament, as a member of Parliament, it is my duty to have me.
I believe I have a point of order. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, all members are honourable members. The member just said that the Prime Minister has met with worse people than she has. I'd like her to name them.
That is demanding into debate here as well. The honourable member for Haldeman Norfolk, from the top.
Yeah, who is she talking about exactly? Who is Justin Trudeau meeting with who is like worse than a known neo-Nazi?
Minister has put on blackface so many times. He has degraded black people. He literally put a banana in his pants, and you have the audacity to stand and look at me as a black
Sorry.
Woman and ask about my meeting with another member of the European Parliament. That is within my job description. I do not have to approve of everything that another member believes in order to have the decency to have meetings with other individuals. Your Prime Minister, this Prime Minister, denigrated black men by putting a banana in his pants. Shame on every member over there that does not chastise them. If this were any other country, he would not be leading, and he would not have the moral authority to lead. He would not have that moral authority.
Wait, did Trudeau put a banana in his pants? And I mean, the thing is, all she has to do here is say, you know what, I'm sorry, I didn't know that they were a Nazi. And yeah, I think actually meeting with Nazis is not a good look. But, you know, she is deflecting here to say Trudeau went in blackface and possibly put a banana in his pants to emulate being a black person. That is super racist. And it is unfortunate that we have a prime minister who has a history of this racism, because unfortunately the Conservatives can use it at any opportunity to deflect against their own racism. But as we should make known, somebody else doing something racist does not justify ourselves also being racist. So I hope there is some follow-up here. I hope she gets pressed a little bit. She never said who she was talking about.
Order.
So that is the moment that went viral for Conservatives. They were all over that because they love virtue signaling and saying like they actually care about racism, and Justin Trudeau did a racist thing once, and I mean he did it several times over and over again. It is super embarrassing for Trudeau, and it is racist. Blackface is bad. If he put a banana in his pants, that's pretty disgusting as well. But again, it does not justify meeting with known neo-Nazis.
Continuing debate. The honourable member for Abbotsford.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And to bring it back to the topic of this debate is Bill C-27.
That's it? Come on.
And the intention of this bill, of course, was to modernize the protection of digital
Is that all we
privacy.
got? That's all we got?
Part of this.
No wonder it got cut out.
Especially
It was just like a 10-second clip.
Protection
Conservatives lost their mind.
We need a new.
Because that's all that happened. Boring. Recently, meeting with Nazis is much worse than putting on blackface over 10 years ago. I don't know if there's any point in comparing. Like both are really bad. Arguably, putting on blackface again and again and again is worse because you repeatedly knew what you were doing. And in a way, I do think that is worse. But at the same time, it's easy enough to just say, yeah, meeting with Nazis is bad, you know, and like I didn't know that they had those political affiliations, and it will never happen again. You know, there is a point comparing because they are comparing. Yeah, I know, but there's no point because when you are put in a position when they are comparing, all you have to say is, yeah, that was bad. But that doesn't justify what you did, you know? So there, and by falling into the trap of them making a comparison between those two things, there's no comparison. They're both really bad things that you should not do, you know? By falling into that trap, it makes it sound like you're defending Trudeau putting on blackface, which is indefensible. She has no excuse, so she deflects. Essentially, yeah, that's what's going on here. So I guess Conservatives get their little W over that 10-second clip. Really anticlimactic, really disappointing, I guess, that they didn't push back even more. But I guess that explains why it was only like a 10-second clip on Twitter, and we didn't get really any substantial debate as a result of that. I noticed that Leslyn was trending in Canada. I guess they still are, at least on my Twitter, because I don't know, Conservatives, they need a W. They need a W real bad, you know, and they will always, unfortunately, use Justin Trudeau's blackface as a way to pretend that they care about racism. It will be exciting one day when we don't have a prime minister who has such a history, you know, because it does, unfortunately, it does take away from us calling out racism in a substantial way. Because every time conservatives just pull up a picture of blackface, and that sucks, you know, that they have that ammunition in their back pocket. It's not a good look. I genuinely wish they didn't pull it up anytime, or especially when they actually use the picture, because if you really care about racism, you don't constantly like trigger people by pulling up a picture of Justin Trudeau in blackface. But it is something that happened. There's no denying it. And it's pretty embarrassing that Justin Trudeau, especially as the son of the former prime minister, would engage in that behavior. You know, like, should have known better, for sure. For sure there, bud. Did you watch 22 Minutes? Oh, no, we never did. We should. CBC Jam. And I guess, wait, there was one more story I did want to cover today. Let's see if we got the video right, though. CBC News has reported that Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of the U.S. Republican caucus is coming out against Canada, saying that Canada is helping Mexico invade the U.S., which is ridiculous for more than a few reasons. The first being that Mexico is not invading the U.S. However, if you take a really hard stance on immigrants, the way a lot of Republicans do and a lot of, well, conservatives in Canada do as well, this might be something that you're worried about, that Canada is letting Mexican people cross into our borders, and then also getting into the U.S. However, if you really think about it from a geographical standpoint at all, in the way that Mexican people can get to Canada, I mean, assuming that they're traveling on land, is through the United States. So in order for Mexican people to get into Canada, they have to first travel through the U.S. And Marjorie Taylor Greene here is worried that upon leaving the U.S., where they're facing probably even, unequal opportunities as a result of racism similar to this, that they are again coming from Canada and then back into the U.S., which in Marjorie Taylor Greene's opinion constitutes an invasion. So really strange. Obviously, this is being done just for attention, as Marjorie Taylor Greene tends to do. You can see in this graph here, U.S. Border Patrol apprehensions per year at the Canadian border. Now, this is obviously something that's really... This is 2000 at the top, 2023 at the bottom, with the projected amount being 8,568. So maybe it is up. Maybe it is up. And there are probably good economic reasons for that. But you can see that the trend over time is that it is down. So and how many of these apprehensions are from Mexico specifically, we don't really know. We on both sides like to pretend it's by land, but big surprise, they have airplanes in Mexico too. They do have airplanes in Mexico, and they do have also boats. There are ways to travel that are not just on land, but I mean, that is why it's also important that we build a wall on our Canadian border, because people do forget that Mexican people have other ways of traveling other than on foot. It is true. The land border makes for spicy news footage and poignant photographs, but most border crossings, legal and illegal, are by plane. This is true, RJ Helms. Thank you for bringing attention to it. But Republicans, especially Donald Trump Republicans, will insist that we need to build a wall. How many people enter Canada illegally from the U.S.? I believe it's not in good taste to call it illegal, but Now they're calling it irregular. I think we were covering this the other day because they closed down Roxham Road. I believe it's like not very proportionate. I know it's 100 to 200,000 people are entering into the U.S. Every month, but it's only a small fraction of that are entering then from the U.S. into Canada as well. I believe 15,000. So not nearly as much. But I can't. Don't quote me on that. There's nothing going on with respect to Canada that merits them being treated like some kind of rogue state. They're good working partners with the United States. I don't know. This is I think another. This is a Democrat, I guess, Glenn Ivey of Maryland. Let's see, are they a Republican or a Democrat? Okay, well, they're black, so I guess we can pretty much assume that they're Democrat, although that's not universally... Okay, they're a Democrat. That's not universally true. There are people like Leslyn Lewis who are social conservatives and, sit on the other side of the aisle. The problem, several Republicans said, was that the northern border is severely understaffed. Barely 10% of the U.S. Border Patrol agents are stationed along the vast Canadian frontier, and even among that limited pool, many are seconded for stints at the busier Mexican border. U.S. politicians love holding up charts. Yeah, what is up with that? They love like these big infographics. It's like you could just print like your favorite Instagram infographics and hold it up in the US. We don't really see any of that in Canada. Why not though? Taylor Green here saying just like, we're just skimming through this because obviously very sensationalized news, but I think we have the video here as well. The author is saying that she has a knack sometimes serving as a bellwether of where her party is heading. I have to kind of disagree with you here. Marjorie Taylor Greene is pretty much the most unhinged Donald Trump Republican that we know of. So
thank you very much.
I believe this is the right footage, but I'm not entirely sure. I think you're not supposed to use props in Parliament. Oh, true. So it's almost like poetry slam rules, no music, no props, no nudity. Also, they are in Maryland. I find when politicians from the U.S. come to defend Canada, it's from the northern states. Yeah. I mean, we do have a vested interest in keeping good working relationships. However, it seems like the whole point too of the most recent Biden-Trudeau announcements are that we are working together, which is another way of saying we're no longer working with China, or at least we're trying to divest from China and reinvest in Canada-U.S. economies. It is funny to see like Donald Trump and his underlings essentially undermine that goal as well. So it doesn't make any sense, even from a conservative Republican standpoint, but Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't need to make sense.
I think funding is extremely important for our programs, especially when it comes to securing the border. And I would like to address the funding issue and the ranking minority member on the committee.
I still can't get over, like, people make fun of Marjorie Taylor Greene for looking like the Attack on Titans, and it's hard to look past that sometimes. I know it's not nice to make fun of people's appearance, but it's Marjorie Taylor Greene, so we get the pass.
That failed to discuss this with Representative Claudia Tenney, who's not even here on the panel to talk about her bill and defend.
Oops, I didn't mean to do that.
Let's get back to the northern border. I'm from Georgia, so I don't know much about it because I live in a southern state.
Well, at least she's admitting that.
But I'm impressed with the fact that it has 5,525 miles, and nearly half of that is over water.
In her defense, Joe Biden did this exact same thing too. Americans love talking about the size of the border.
I was also extremely concerned to find out that
it's the biggest land border in the whole entire world.
Before, in the past 10 years, there were approximately 2,000 Border Patrol agents to cover that gigantic expanse of land. I also am very concerned to find out that DHS moved more than 20% of northern border officers to have to go process the gigantic influx of illegal aliens at the southern border.
I really hate this word, illegal aliens. Like, it is super dehumanizing. First of all, no humans are illegal. And second of all, referring to people, and let's face it, they're talking about brown people, as aliens is super fucking gross.
Leaving northern border states to have to handle these problems on their own, a major problem. And that comes from lack of funding from the Biden administration in the last 2 years when they had full control in the House and the Senate.
Okay, so the ironic part of all of this, as we watch the Biden-Trudeau joint announcement in our House of Commons here in Canada, is that they're closing down Roxham Road, which is the main irregular entry point for a lot of migrants. So to pretend as though Biden and Trudeau, aka I guess you could say center-right leaning politicians, are like not being hard enough on these migrants is like pretty disingenuous.
I'd also like to point out that it's extremely concerning and dangerous to the United States of America's national security that Canada's immigration policy allows Mexicans to travel to Canada without a visa.
What? Why would you need a visa if you are a migrant? That the whole point of being a migrant too is that you get to the country and then once you're there, you claim asylum. That's how you actually enter, and this is legal under the United Nations laws about this. So you don't get if you went to apply for a visa and you're a refugee, what happens when you don't get the visa? What choices are you left with them? And this is why they have this asylum protections.
It seems that Canada wants to participate in Mexico's invasion of the United States because many of these Mexicans are obtaining an electronic travel authorization to fly into Canada, and they get that approved within
Okay, so they are flying.
minutes, and then they end up coming into the United States.
So why wouldn't Mexican people be allowed to come to Canada? Like we as Canadians are allowed to fly to Mexico for a holiday, right? Like what exactly is she saying here?
One state in particular, Mr. Quinn, you come from. You're from New Hampshire, and
And we would be allowed to go and even apply for work in Mexico as well. If we wanted to migrate to Mexico, we would be allowed to do that through proper channels.
amazed that you have a population in your state of approximately 1.4 million people, but yet thinking about nearly 5 million illegal aliens that have attempted to come to the United States. That has to be pretty intimidating. Mr. Quinn, it was reported that in 2022, a family of 4...
All right, and the other gross thing is that she says it's a war. Like Mexicans are invading the US, just by simply existing within their borders. It's an invasion. Super, super racist rhetoric.
Indian nationals, including 2 children, died of exposure to the extreme cold in Canada near your border with the U.S. on their way to enter the U.S. illegally. In December of last year, a Haitian man was found dead in the woods trying to enter the U.S. illegally from Canada. And in just February of this year, a Mexican man entering the United States illegally from Canada died during the trek. In your experience, Mr. Quinn, of being from a northern border state, what type of environments do those who attempt to cross the northern border illegally usually face during the winter months?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the question.
Okay, so we've seen enough from Marjorie Taylor Greene. Anyways, her questions are not worth answering. It's so ridiculous that we call ourselves North America and share a huge trade agreement, yet the people don't have, of all 3 countries, don't have the freedom of movement. Yes, I mean, it's crazy to think about the European Union too. You can travel throughout all those countries freely. Honestly, I guess sadly, I'm kind of like not in favor of free travel between Canada and the US, because the US has a lot of guns, and that I would be scared that they would more easily be able to like bring guns into Canada. So it's obviously a nuanced discussion, but in a maybe less violent world, I would be supportive of something like that. This is what I mentioned in Discord. There's a lot of NAFTA rules that the U.S. applies differently if you're coming from Mexico or Canada. Thanks, racism. Yeah, I think that is something probably I have to look further into. So even if you're Mexican, you have an easier time trying to get a work permit, etc., if you're in Canada versus the United States. So there's incentive for Mexicans to come to Canada is versus the United States. Is that what you're trying to say? Or are you trying to say that like it's easier for them to get a work permit in the US if they're already in Canada? Oh, it's easier to get a work permit if you're in Canada versus in Mexico. Oh, right. Yeah. Right. And that is what is like that, exactly. That's why that's why you just go to places and then you figure it out once you're there. Yeah, easier to get a US permit if they're in Canada. Oh, I see. Okay. So right. So basically the problem is like how they've incentivized the program as well. Right? Although to me, like none of this is even a problem. Has she ever even been to Canada? Probably not. And like, let's try to keep it that way, to be honest. We're basically like the walls of Attack on Titan trying to keep Marjorie Taylor Greene out. Let's see if we can get a live image here of Marjorie Taylor Greene trying to get over the wall of Attack on Titan. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene right here trying to enter Canada. Marjorie. Oh wait, here it is. Oh God, it's terrifying. Like the rules are the same, but the procedure is way easier here. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, that's great to know. I mean, honestly, if you're a Mexican person, like come to Canada. We need more people of color. Even if you want to come to the U.S. afterwards, we for one thing, I mean, we don't have a wall, so you can just fly right in, and as much as walls, you can't really build them tall enough that airplanes can't fly over them. But, if you're Mexican, come to Canada. Corncob niblet teeth freaked me out. Yeah, the Attack on Titans are creepy, because they are kind of like that uncanny valley. Man, we're so behind on CBC Jam this hour. We didn't watch it last week either. Even Canadians can die easily crossing in Canada. Winter camping is no joke. True. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm passionate about this topic. I need to educate myself a little more about it. Last night was season finale. We have 2 eps, so we can watch maybe 2 episodes. A winning streak. Oh, right. They made fun of the Juno streaker. This is so old at this point. In the news world, this is so old. Watch out. It's going to be loud in a moment. Just mute the site. Would it be 44 minutes? Yes, this hour has 44 minutes. It's having a hell of a time loading. Well, I guess we'll be lucky even if we get 1 minute here, the way this is going. What's going on, CBC? You know, I paid my taxes. I just want to watch my damn TV shows. What's going on? Am I doing anything else that's taking up a lot of... Well, my friends, we might be having some problems here. Always concerned about irregular crossings in the winter months. Yeah. It would be nice if they just had open borders, you know, like, or at least open border crossings. It's Trudeau's fault. That is true. That is Trudeau. Oh, we got it. What happens when this one loads, though? We'll just let this one load, and then we can start the show. We got 44 minutes. Oh no, I did it again. I'm not centered in the screen. When exposed skin can freeze in minutes. I've done it again. Ah, what? What the hell happened there? I just went flying. Whoa. OBS, you're so trash sometimes, I swear. What is going on? Okay. Come on. Okay, I can go down. I can't go up. Why can't I go up? I can go sideways. But I can't go up. Did you miss crossword? No, we haven't done the crossword yet. I mean, we should probably just do it now while this loads. Arthur newspaper puzzles. Let's go. Today is the day that we complete this crossword. Today is the 26th. About half a regular soccer field. Extinguished as birthday candles without. Saw you go up? Yeah, I know. I'm still like really... I don't know what's going on with this. Because obviously I have room above my head. I don't know why the camera won't let me fix it. It's just making me go up. Blow. Extinguished as birthday candles without. Close. I think you're close there, Purple Mavis. I'm not sure. What's 2 down? Half of an old crime duo. Minty herb. Part of a fast food combo. Blue past tense. I think that's right. Because it is extinguished. You gotta think of the tense. Mint is too short. Well, if it has the word in the clue, then it's definitely not the word. Minty herb, it can't be mint, because mint is the clue. You know? Part of a fast food combo. Blank school. Don't know. Hate with a passion. Fries. It's true, but this is 4 letters. Nugs. That's also 5 letters. Half of an old crime duo. Update cartographer style. First mammal to be cloned. And a recipe amount. You can see here amount is abbreviated, which means that the answer is also abbreviated. No, Nugs is the minty herb. True. EWE. The first mammal to be cloned was a EU. Was you. Still driving me nuts that I can't reposition myself here. High school? That would make sense. I'm not sure though. 1 across is acre, about half of a regular soccer field. I believe that is correct. Hate with a passion. For 8 high school, I don't think so. Minty herb is time. Good job. I think that's right. Cup for 6 down. Recipe amount. No, not quite there. Remember, if there's an abbreviation in the clue, that means that the clue is also an abbreviation. Tablespoon. I think that's right. It's either tablespoon or teaspoon. It's TSP or TBS. Part of a fast food combo. Starts with a S. How about this? Half of an old crime duo. Come on, that's pretty obvious now. Update cartographer style. That's right, Bonnie and Clyde. Which maybe means part of a fast food combo is... Starts with a S, has a D in the middle. It's not pop. Side. You're... close. Soda. That's right. Which means hate with a passion. Is to abhor. Or we could solve here if we got blank school. That's right, abhor. And now we have our last one here. Update cartographer style or blank school. We got one letter here. P, Purple Mavis. You're dragging to the finish here. 5 minutes, 59 seconds. Well, I guess I'm not the only one having a sleepy day here. Hey, chat. Thanks, Purple Mavis, for getting us to the end. Let's see. Oh, we still have not loaded. Well, if this starts playing during us watching the first ep, we will know. Pray school? That does not sound like a fun place to be. You woke up late too? Fair. Is that Justin Trudeau? Is he on this app?
Tonight on 22 Minutes, I get a snowboard lesson from the Prime Minister. Pierre Poilievre gets stranded at the airport, and we put away the winter coats. 22 Minutes starts now.
Prep does make more sense, yes, than pray school.
Welcome to the show. The big news of the week, Justin Trudeau named the eminent Canadian who will act as special rapporteur. Please be me, please be me. Sorry, Trent, it's former Governor General David Johnston. Justin, you do realize eminent doesn't mean oldest, right? Though who better to investigate our elections than a guy who was at the first one? Can we trust Mr. Johnston? His biggest moment as Governor General was when he touched the Queen. 5 years later, she's gone. Just saying.
He was appointed by Stephen Harper, so Trudeau probably thought the Conservatives would be on board, but they were divided. On one side was former leader Andrew Scheer, who said,
"No one associated with it, that means the foundation, can be trusted on this issue."
And on the other side was former leader Andrew Scheer.
Mr. Johnson has carried out his duties with infallible dignity and with the utmost respect for the position.
Dude, pick a lane. I haven't seen you this divided since you had to pick between skim or whole milk.
The Conservatives are accusing the Prime Minister of hiring another rich family friend, but you should have seen his first choice, a caviar spoon with his dad's initials on it.
Johnson better get moving because CSIS reported that Beijing interfered with Vancouver's 2022 municipal election. What's next? Roll up the rim?
Yo, that Photoshop was pretty good on that roll up the rim.
Next, roll up the rim?
All hail President Xi. Roll up.
And hey, if Johnson isn't up to the job, I got some free time coming up, and I never once touched the Queen.
Good for you, buddy. I'm in Newfoundland and Labrador at beautiful White Hills in Clarenville, and it's winter in Canada. I've always wanted to learn how to snowboard, so I went to the most famous snowboard instructor in Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Prime Minister?
Wow.
I know you're, Prime Minister and everything. That's great. Is that going to help me here? Are you a legit snowboard instructor?
Yes, I'm a level 2 Cassie snowboard instructor. But a few years ago, I was given an
Wow.
honorary level 4. But I stick with I'm a level 2.
An honorary level 4. That is the saddest thing I've ever heard. Well, I need to learn how to snowboard, and maybe you could have something to fall back on if things don't work out other than Jagmeet Singh.
Now, we already made a determination that in a shocking twist, you're goofy.
Goofy means what? The way
Means you're right foot forward.
Right foot forward.
Yeah.
Are we sure I'm goofy?
Yes, we're sure you're goofy.
Okay. Okay.
See, you took a big step with your right foot.
Oh, you were teaching me. That was a teachable moment. Thank you.
Any excuse to knock you around. Walk over towards me, sort of stepping and sliding. Try to point the board towards me. There you go.
Conservatives are so mad right now. They're like, look at him. He's violent.
Should I already be winded? Okay.
Put on your mitts.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Now you're all zipped up. You're going to have to pee, right?
I got to pee.
You're just going to step on the carpet.
We're
and
going
the board
further
will
up the
carry
hill?
you up. We're going all the way up there. Okay?
I
And
can't
just
get on this.
all you have to do is stand.
Wait.
You don't have to do anything other than put it on and then stand beside it. Just stand. Yes, there you go. Okay, now get it fully on the board. There you go. Oh. You're kidding.
No, I'm okay. I can ride up on my ass.
No, you can't.
Are you sure this is safe? You've cleared.
I hate snowboarding and skiing for these exact reasons. I'm so uncomfortable being locked into those things.
This with the Mounties?
They're around here to protect me, and they know I'm safe.
The Mountie says it's okay.
They say it's okay for me. They gave no guarantees about you, Rich.
What about China? Did they sign off? I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Ooh.
So you're just going to step. You're going to try and stay vertical no matter what. Just step. No, don't jump.
You're going to want, oh boy. Okay.
This would be me.
Okay. There you go.
Same
Okay,
though.
Now you're going to stand up. Let's see, look at that. You're getting to be a real pro.
You just pulled me up like a pound of potato. There's nothing. I did nothing.
Okay, bend your knees a bit more. You're just sliding towards me. Bend your, lift your toes. Lift your toes.
Is this how you and Jug Meat learn to work together?
We're gonna try and drift over towards the left here, okay? So, there you go.
Drift further to the left.
No.
Typical liberal.
That's right.
Further to the left.
You're about to dig in your toes and fall
We really wish.
on your face while you're
You've
busy
been
making
digging
a
in
joke.
your heels for years.
There you go.
Who taught you how to ski?
My dad.
Fidel Castro taught you to ski?
I'm a professional, because I can just let you go.
I'm
and you'd be
realizing
in
you'll go down to a level 1 if you let me die, so this is good.
Now I want you to keep your weight
Damn.
over on your right foot, and you're gonna swing. Yeah, there you go. Swing right around and lift your toes. Lift your toes. So fall. Okay. You actually sort of almost did your first turn.
I did a complete 180 though. Like you on electoral reform. Kidding. I'm kidding!
Oh. Damn. You know what? That was the best one for sure.
You had it. Straighten it out. Shoot.
See
Okay,
you,
now
Justin!
sit down.
Well, I think this is a great first lesson though. Are you going to show us what you can do as a level 2 snowboard instructor?
You know what a level 2 snowboard instructor does? He does what you just saw me doing. Teaching others how to ski, how to snowboard.
I thought I was going to Jedi mind trick him into just friggin' off. But you've been Prime Minister for like 8 years now?
Yeah.
We all know how hard it is to get him to frig off.
So now we're slipping over to towards the left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
There you go. Nice control. Keep your toe up. Yeah.
Huh? Was that snowboarding?
Nicely done.
That was great. Justin Trudeau, more than just a prime minister, he's also a certified level 2 snowboard instructor. And we've been slowly going downhill. Not like Justin Trudeau. Had to get one in.
There you go.
I'm gonna die now. Thank you.
He's got a future in snowboarding.
Critch is actually really funny, like off the top. You know, you gotta hand it to him. I'm sure some of that was maybe planned out, but I feel like a lot of it was off the cuff. Justin Trudeau, not funny, but I mean, he didn't have to be funny.
Another pigeon was found in a BC prison wearing a tiny backpack meant for smuggling drugs. Even weirder, it was for a conjugal visit.
The Tiger
What?
King announced he's running for president despite being in prison. And
Really?
we hope he starts a trend of unhinged reality stars running for president from behind bars.
True.
A new study says St. John, New Brunswick is the worst city in Canada to survive a zombie apocalypse. If you really want to avoid zombies, go to a city where there aren't a lot of brains.
Damn.
Hey, is it cool if I put these winter coats away?
What? No, are you crazy?
It's spring.
The second you put the winter coats away, there'll be a huge snowstorm. It happens every year.
No, it doesn't. It's just a superstition.
And this just in, we're tracking an absolute freak show of a spring blizzard. This thing has come out of nowhere, and it's coming hard.
See?
This is last week's, Robert. We're still catching up.
Look what you did.
No, I didn't. It's just a coincidence.
Just take the coat out.
And the forecast has changed again. We're looking at double digits. That's right, spring is definitely sprung.
Well, we really dodged a bullet, didn't we?
My jacket do that?
No, what are you doing?
And this just in, a hurricane made entirely of razor-sharp icicles is moving in. So board up your windows, say your prayers. And it looks like sunny skies and plus 15 in the forecast. So get out that picnic basket because the storm of the century is hurtling towards us like a freight train conducted by Satan himself. So bust out the sunscreen and hit the beach. We're
This
looking
does
at
happen.
plus 25 and death from above. A polar vortex so powerful it will give God himself a runny nose. So put your head between your knees, mortals, and grab that surfboard. It's time to hit the waves. Summer's almost here, and with it, absolute carnage pouring from the heavens. A blizzard of ash and brimstone. So brace yourself for a summer breeze, makes me feel fine.
Leave the
Rolling
coat
through
out.
The jasmine. Coming up, your favorite team could win the Stanley Cup unless you forget to wear your lucky jersey, in which case they'll all die in a fire. We'll be right back. 51% of Manitobans believe they have good luck. Who's going to tell them?
Hey.
There he is.
Sorry I'm late. Happy birthday, Sarah. It's just a little something.
Thanks.
Yeah. Guess that's me down there, huh? Okay.
So as I was saying, our
That guy's in every episode, right? He just plays a character who never says anything, but he used to be in this show, like on the regs.
RSPs, you get a deduction when you contribute. But a TFSA, on the other hand.
Oh my God, I'm on the boring side of the table. This isn't good. No. I wonder what they're talking about down there.
So you know me, right? After a few Sauv Blancs, I will tear a strip off anybody.
That is literally the funniest thing I have ever heard.
What is?
So the doctor says I shouldn't have so many hard-boiled eggs, but I love those things. I know the softness.
Is he talking about hard-boiled eggs? Look at them down there. That looks like a fun story.
Once your pilot lands the plane on a highway, you don't clap for normal landings anymore.
That is the best story. Like, I can't believe it's real.
A lot of people like to fold laundry the traditional way, but not me. Can I elaborate?
Sure, yeah.
Why did you say yes? What's wrong with you?
Oh, I can't take much more of this.
Let me show you the scar.
Wow.
Let me show you my bunion.
So then I open the door, and it's Penelope Cruz.
So I open the door, and it's Paul Simpson. No, not the famous canoeist.
I'm so bored. Oh, I'm gonna light myself on fire with this dinner candle just to feel something.
On that note, I have to go, or I will pee from laughing.
Oh gosh, yeah, thank God. Now's your chance. The exciting side of the table.
I'm just gonna go say hi down there real quick. Okay. So that I'd come say hi down here quick. What was so funny?
I don't want to tell it again.
Totally. I don't want to do that. So you guys see any good movies lately?
Damn.
So we had just left the surface of the moon. And I say, guys, we gotta turn around. I forgot my wallet.
Best story I've heard in my life.
What are they talking about down there?
Maybe you're the boring one. That's the moral of the story.
A BC man was surprised to see notes on his health file describing him as a redneck hick. But if you're in the hospital because you cut your belly button opening a beer, you might be a redneck.
A BC man was shocked when he discovered his health file described him as a redneck hick. Even worse, he was prescribed school.
Pierre Polyev visited Newfoundland and Labrador last week, and he talked about an issue Newfoundlanders are very passionate about.
The mighty Atlantic salmon being gobbled up by the excessive population of seals.
Hey, we covered this.
Yes, if the seals gobble up all the fish, then what the hell are the tourists supposed to kiss? But many animal welfare groups like PETA say killing more seals is not the answer.
But what do you say to the people that say, well, seals are cute, they're adorable, we shouldn't be hunting them?
You know, hunting is natural.
Man, these guys could really use some tips on how to be natural. The seal hunt is a divisive issue, but there's one thing we can all agree on. No one needs to see a Pierre Polyev fashion show.
Let's seal the deal. I'm getting a little cold in this city boy jacket. Nice
This
style,
is true.
eh?
We
All dressed up and ready to go clubbing. This is not helping Pierre's reputation as a cartoon villain. I mean, the guy looks like Cruella de Milhouse. Polyev's been posting like crazy this week. When his flights were delayed, he uploaded this video.
Justin, me again. Sorry to bother you.
He's so creepy in this video. Like, why?
It's just that my first flight was canceled, my second flight is delayed, and this is a normal experience now at our federal airports. You don't know anything about that because
He looks unhinged during this. We should cover this because he's just like, Justin, me again. I missed my flight and it's your fault. Like he sounds like a stalker.
You have your own private jet.
Justin, hi, me again. It's been a harrowing day. I was driven here by a female Uber driver. I'm surprised I arrived alive. Now my flight's been delayed because of weather. Snowflakes belong in the sky, not in the cockpit. Cockpit. I like that word. It's masculine. I can't get my bags, Justin. My assistant is probably cold and scared in his crate underneath the cabin. You should be filling planes with passengers, like how my face fills this entire frame. Justin, me again. Flight's been canceled. I'll be spending my night on the airport floor with all the other average Canadians. Ugh. Even worse, I don't have my emotional support wife to unload on. Justin, I've staked a claim on the urinal in the far right corner of the airport. Everybody knows that it's mine, and PP will be PPing there exclusively. Justin, you're here. You ever run on those flat escalators? You go so fast. Anyway, Justin, I've been stuck here so long that my beard came in. Want to know how I got this? 16 hours of uninhibited growth.
Ew.
Thanks to you. There's a pigeon in here, Justin. Would you believe it? A pigeon. A pigeon in the airport. Sitting right over there. Plump, juicy, an easy target. Ugh. The taste of pigeon is unacceptable, Justin. Fix it. Hey, you, average Canadian. Trade you some of my pigeon for your pistachios.
Oh, God.
Get away from my urinal! Fix this, Justin. Fix it.
Shit, that was by far the funniest bit. Funniest bit yet. He does a good PP. Let's
For
be
the
real.
first time since 1987, vinyl sales have overtaken CDs as the most popular form of physical media. And it's all thanks to the, yeah, you probably haven't heard of them, community. Artists today are making less than a penny per stream, which means Nickelback can't even get a nickel back. But thanks to this vinyl resurgence, artists can now afford much-needed tattoo removals. The leading artist when it comes to vinyl sales is pop star and ex-boyfriend enthusiast Taylor Swift, whose album Midnight sold more records than Fleetwood Mac and the Beatles combined. And some say if you play her record backwards, it says, John Mayer sucks. You might wonder why people are still buying CDs at all, but you can't scrape your windshield with an MP3. So before you toss away your Discman, your Walkman, or your VCR man, remember, one man's trash is another person's entire identity.
I used to not be able to help out around the house, but now that I take Panacel, I'm back to my old self.
Before Panacel, my mind was so scattered. Now, I'm fully focused.
Wow, that sounds great. So it's like a pill.
I could spend more time with my family.
I can go jogging again.
Awesome. So it's like a pill, right?
My doctor asked me why I thought I needed Panacel.
So I told him the reason, and he said, for that, yep.
What did you tell him? Say the reason.
I'm always smiling. I feel taller.
No more aches and pains. I can finally ride a bike again.
With Panacel, no more pesky bikes.
What?
is this?
Panacel helped me in the bedroom and the bathroom.
They said I'd never walk again. Until now.
I died, but not anymore.
Okay, those are just miracles.
For me, Panacel was the answer. And the question was, how about Panacel?
You're making me mad.
There's a Panacel for that.
So ask your doctor if Panacel is right for you.
It is. And if he doesn't agree, have him taken care of.
You don't mean...
By Panacel.
What do you mean?
Panacel, get back to the new you all over again. For the very first time. Twice.
Yeah, that's Viagra.
Wow. I don't know why that was so funny to me. Shit.
Some Canadian employers are offering egg freezing as part of expanded fertility benefits.
Nice.
So you really want to make sure you label your lunches.
Wait, what?
Pornhub
Is she laughing at her own joke?
has been acquired by a private equity firm. The firm plans on keeping it in a portfolio labeled just normal documents.
Pornhub has been acquired by a private equity firm. The firm was hoping for a partner in the deal, but sometimes it's easier to just take care of it yourself.
Last week, a topless activist interrupted the Juno Awards to protest Doug Ford. The disruption happened right as Avril Lavigne was about.
Did someone say greenbelt?
No, I very clearly said Avril Lavigne.
My bad. It's hard to hear you over the screams of murdered trees.
Okay, so Juno Streaker, what?
Okay, please call me Mother Gaia.
I will not. Why protest at the Junos and not a live show that people actually watch?
Well, as you can probably tell by my bandana and terrible pants, I'm a huge Nickelback fan.
Oh, God.
Okay, so you were there to watch their Hall of Fame induction.
No, I was there to flash Chad Kroger, my nickel friend. But then someone dropped a Sharpie, and I thought, seize the day, Carpe D's.
No, it's not her, Rupert. It's the actor who's been in the entire show.
Okay, it was kind of hard to read everything written on your body. What were you trying to say other than I'm a middle child?
It is really good costume though. It looks almost exactly like her. So I won't blame you.
OMG, Trent, are you checking me out?
I'm not, no.
Okay, well then eyes up here, by my nipples.
Okay. Some say that you whipping out your Junos undercuts the gravity of your message.
Okay, trust me, nobody worries about gravity more than a 37-year-old topless woman.
Fair enough. Were you embarrassed when Canada's skater girl said F you later, girl?
I low-key thought Avril would be like more punk, like chill out. What you yelling for? Lay back. It's all been done before.
Sounds complicated.
What?
Do you have a follow-up message?
I do. Call me Chad.
Do not call her. Chad, do not call her.
Tatas for now.
Bye, Juno Streaker. Bye.
That's the way we saw the world this week. Come back
Yeah, it's this comedian right here.
next Tuesday. It's our season finale.
For now, stick around. Son of a Critch is next on CBC. Good night.
Good night.
All right, we did it. That was worth it. Honestly, that was worth it just for that one Pierre Poilievre skit. That was funny. Not a bad show. It's really shocking to me how good it actually continues to be. So, hey. They got good innuendos, something that inappropriate innuendo would know all about. An expert, even, in the innuendo industry. The snowboarding was unexpected. Honestly, it was a good bit for Justin Trudeau. He did come off looking very good in that. Because he didn't really have to do anything. He just had to be unfunny, which is what he's, I think, pretty good at. He's not really a funny man. So, I am going to end stream here today. We're going to have to watch the season finale of 22 Minutes, maybe tomorrow, if we have time. It was a late stream, but we still managed to get in 4 hours of streaming. So, very important. And I really appreciate you all. I have to do some work. I have to make sure I get the Arthur podcast up before the end of the day. Saw Rick Mercer making Stephen Harper put plastic wrap on his cottage porch to save on heating. Okay. Yeah. I can't say I've been a diehard fan of this hour throughout my entire life, but I do enjoy it. I'll have to we'll have to go back into the vaults at some point and check that out. I will be back tomorrow at the regular time, because I don't plan on staying up late and working on my music. Watch some best of for 22 minutes. Yeah, for sure. Now that I'm getting the VODs up on YouTube, that might actually make it harder to watch this hour. Because I know when we watched the David Suzuki with the bees, they blocked that out of the VOD, which makes sense because CBC is more strict about their content being shown, and Twitch just doesn't give a fuck. However, YouTube is on that stuff, so we'll see. It might interfere with us watching in the future, but whatever. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Who can we raid? We have probably more people to raid during this time. Because it's later in the day. Yeah. Let's see. Alyosher. Corey Campbell. I have no idea who. I feel like I follow too many people on Twitch now. War Deer is a Canadian streamer. I don't know what they're talking about. Who else we got? Shaler is there. Rob Rousseau is streaming. Don't get to raid him too often. I'm trying to raid people no more than once a week. I guess Rob Rousseau probably makes the most sense since they talk about the news.
U.S. troops in Syria, yes, and we can watch it after. It's really
I agree with Rob Rousseau on most things, but they do a bit of a tanky take when it comes to the whole Ukraine-Russia thing, which is a bit unfortunate. But also I've learned recently that like Nora Loretto, who I also agree with on like 99% of things, has also done a bit of a tanky take. I don't know. It's confusing. I don't really know enough about geopolitics to understand why, but I think standing with the people of Ukraine is kind of where I'm at with that whole thing. But anyways, let's raid Rob of the Rousseau family. I will see you tomorrow stream. I appreciate you. I love you. I'm glad that I can help provide this space, which to me is a very fun space to be. So I will see you tomorrow.
So some leftist based in Canada, I was turned on to this sick individual, and I found this.
my homie Tutaro.